Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the August 4th meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. I will call the meeting to order and ask, well, first of all, I'd like to remind everybody, since we have such a big crowd, to please silence your cell phones. It says up here electronic devices, but I don't know what you're carrying with you these days besides cell phones. If you still have a beeper, you can leave that beep. That'd be fun for everybody. So if you would, please stand and join me in the invocation and the pledge. Lord, as we begin our meeting tonight, we pray for wisdom and compassion as we strive for the common good of our city and its residents. We thank you for your many blessings and pray for peace and unity within our country. We pray for all of our employees and especially for the family of Kevin Woodard. May you grant them peace and comfort as they continue to mourn his passing. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And just a little public service announcement here. Our next council meeting would normally be on Tuesday, August the 18th. However, as I hope you all know, that is the night of the election, or the day of the election, August 18th. And so by our city's charter, our council meeting will be held on the Monday before that date. So that is Monday, August 17th. Still everything's the same, 6 o'clock, still in here, but it's Monday instead of Tuesday. And that only happens on election years. Okay, so just please make a note of that. For those of you who may not visit our council meetings very often, we have a tradition here whereby we begin with a fun or historic or interesting fact about our city, our community, or the region. And when that duty rotates up and down the dais, and tonight it falls on our Vice Mayor, James Chambers. So, James.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, this topic has been touched on before, at least a year ago, but on the first part I want to bring up again. It's about the community gardens we have in the city of Temple Terrace. There are 3 separate garden areas in Temple Terrace. They're all run by a volunteer organization, the Temple Terrace Community Gardens. They're a volunteer group. The first location was and still is at River Hills Park. At that time, a group of our residents was helping River Hills Elementary School that wanted to start a garden directly adjacent to the cafeteria, and they helped. They saw a benefit of that and started thinking about having an area for themselves to have anyone other than school children have a garden area. So they approached the city, and on February 7th of 2012, City Council passed Resolution 16-12, allowing the group to use an area of land at River Hills Park, and that was location number 1. Then the second location is a garden area at Greco Middle School. The school board authorized the use of that property along with an agreement with the city in 2013. So that was the second area, and that's still going strong. The third location was near Linwood Park, and that was approved in 2016. So those are 3 gardening locations. They're all, some of them are the same. Some are a little different. I can tell you about the Greco one because my wife has a plot, so I know more about that one. The plots are 4 feet by 10 feet. It's $20 to be a member of their volunteer group, and it's $40 a year to use the garden, and that includes the water and the irrigation, and it's maintained up by the group. So those are the 3 current ones. Now, people think that River Hills was the very first garden plot in Temple Terrace, and that is not true. So I've done some research, and I would guess, but I don't know for sure, that during World War II there must have been some victory gardens in the city, but I don't know that for a fact. But I do know that there was one city-authorized garden area before that, and that was in the 1970s. And that was down at B Station, which is our sewage pumping station. That it's about at the very southern part of Temple Terrace where West and East River meet. That facility, we had 8 plots, and they were 10 by 50 in size. And I know this because I was starting in the rec department and I worked at the tennis courts. And apparently when you did that, that meant you also had the garden plots in the south part of the city. So I managed that, and it cost $10 a year for those plots. So I say that because I know there was a garden before that, and the only thing I know that is in the records, and it's not really ours, was there was a Channel 13 story, one of the very first stories Lloyd Sowers did. He just retired last year with Channel 13, but he did a story on the community gardens, and it was my first interview on TV. And so I was scared to death, kind of like I am right now. But anyway, all right. So now that's the story of the first I know garden plot, city-sponsored plot. But now I always like to make this somewhat a story and about me. So it involves me, not about me. So the garden plot people, the renters, they decided they wanted more organic fertilizer. So they all chipped in and made a deal with a chicken farmer in Brandon for a load of chicken manure. Okay, at this time, Highway 60 was 2-lane. Brandon almost didn't exist, more cattle and chicken farms than anything. Interstate 75 didn't exist, so to get there you had to go down 301 and then turn east on 60. So the assistant director of the rec center at that time was a man named Jim Adamson, and he drove a truck. It was a Ford Ranchero, if you know what those vehicles are. And its nickname was the Ranchero because it was terrible. It didn't run very well, but it was the vehicle we had. We didn't have a great finance department back then that kept us up in vehicles, so thank you. But anyway, so Jim drove and I rode with him to this chicken farmer out there, and the front end loader came with this load of chicken manure and put it in the back of the Ranchero, which you know is not a really good truck. It's more of a vehicle than a car than a truck, so it can't carry much. And it went right to the axle. It was so heavy. So now, if you can imagine, we're driving very slow because when Jim tried to turn, the front wheels were barely making contact. So to turn, if you turned right, the thing would kind of bounce and grab and kind of just turn like that. So we're going really, really slow. We're now on 301 heading north towards the city. And a semi or big truck, again, 301 was 2-lane, blew by us. The wind got under the truck and picked the hood up and wrapped it around the windshield. We couldn't get it back down, so I had to walk, I don't know how far, to find a gas station with a payphone. Cell phones didn't exist. To call, I had to call Public Works and tell them that we're on the side of the road with a load of chicken manure with the roof wrapped around the windshield. So that's just I thought, a humorous story about the first garden plots in Temple Terrace. So anyway.
So somewhere on the side of 301 in the ditch is still a Ford Ranchero with chicken manure.
Probably, yes. I really don't know how they got it back. I had to leave.
You can't. These are the best stories. These are better than what we can find online. So thank you very much. So the next item is always a pleasure, and this is the Employee of the Month. And I'd like to recognize the Employee of the Month and call Michael Faubourg to the podium. And so while he's coming up, in full disclosure, yes, Mike is a friend of mine. However, I had nothing to do with his selection. I hesitate to say that because I was going to hold it over his head, but I really didn't have anything to do with your selection. So Michael Faubourg is recognized as the Employee of the Month for the month of June. Mike's an exemplary employee who consistently demonstrates professionalism, dependability, and strong leadership. He communicates clearly and directly with staff and is highly regarded for his organizational skills, attention to detail, punctuality, and commitment to completing every task to the highest standard. He is someone his colleagues can rely on at any time, day or night, and he consistently goes above and beyond to ensure that the job gets done. During Hurricane Milton, Mike demonstrated remarkable calmness and professionalism under challenging circumstances. His dedication and teamwork were especially evident during the long and demanding cleanup efforts that followed the storm. And that doesn't tell half the story there. I'm going to have to come back to that one. As a maintenance attendant 4, Michael is highly knowledgeable and takes the initiative to share his expertise with his coworkers. His willingness to support and mentor others contributes significantly to the efficiency and effectiveness of the Public Works team. He's a hardworking and dedicated employee who consistently encourages those around him and contributes to a positive workplace environment. He's a natural leader and a tremendous team player. His dedication, knowledge, work ethic, and positive attitude make him a valuable asset to Public Works. The department is stronger, more efficient, and a better place because of Michael Fauberg. Congratulations to Michael for being selected as the June Employee of the Month. And so I do have to tell you, before you applaud a little bit, they give me a script. Sometimes I know the person real enough that I could do this probably just ad lib. But the story about Hurricane Milton, and we have some other people involved in this too that may not be Employee of the Month, but it's to their credit also. You got to remember we had 2 hurricanes and they were 2 weeks apart. And so these Public Works folks, they don't just respond to the hurricane. There's the week or week and a half leading up to the hurricane where they're going around securing everything, getting all the trash cans picked up, emptying everything, picking up loose stuff, making sure everything. So for a week or week and a half before a storm, they're out there at all hours of the day and night. Then there's actually a storm, which is probably the quietest part because there's nothing to do. As soon as that storm passes, they're out on the street and they start, and it's nonstop, day and night. I don't know how many hours a day they put in, but it's nonstop. And this goes on for a long period of time. Well, 2 hurricanes in a row. So the first one we largely were able to get past, but then they had to go put all that stuff back that they picked up, only to go out the next day and pick it all back up again because another hurricane is coming. And so when I first got to know Mike was after Hurricane Milton, and I think we were cutting trees or filling sandbags or something, and these guys remember that. And I won't go into his background because I don't know what he wants me to tell you and what he doesn't, but he is absolutely a leader. Took charge. These guys were going on, running on empty, no gas in the tank. They'd been working like crazy hours. And Mike just like, he's like this. I don't think his pulse gets above 70 no matter what. So anyhow, thank you for your service. I'm glad to see you here. I see you got a haircut for the occasion.
I made a speech, but, for me to stand up here and you look at it from the 10,000 foot level, I'm the one being recognized. Obviously, I cannot be up here because when you get on the ground level and you open the hood, you see all the moving parts that come with this. I don't think I've been in any position where there isn't one section of the city that hasn't been involved. Utilities, obviously streets and grounds are always together. The police department, the fire department, the sewer department, everybody is a team when you open the hood at the ground level. So I'm privileged to be up here in front of you guys to represent them. And I thank everybody for giving me this privilege to be up here and represent the city and represent everything that Public Works stands for.
Okay, well, thank you for all your work, Mike. Good morning to you, and then we'll call your wife and the team up. How's that? Congratulations. All right, Mrs. Mike, come on up. You didn't know you were getting called out.
I did not, no, this is a surprise.
All right, let's get your team up here. Come on, guys.
Come on, Oscar, Juan, Nani.
Here, you hold this. It's yours.
I have a block.
You can still see you. Okay, you're good.
Thank you. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thanks.
Okay, next item of business is consideration of the minutes from our July 7th council meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second.
Motion is second. Discussion or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Minutes are adopted. Persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda, requests to address the mayor and council are on the little table in the back of the room. If you'd like to address the council and haven't filled one out already, there's time. Please complete it and give it to the city clerk to my left. We have a 30-minute time limit at this portion of the meeting, which we rarely exceed. If we do, we discontinue the public comment section of the meeting and we pick that back up at the end of the meeting. That's to enable us to get through the agenda. That rarely happens, but I like to read that in case it does. There's a 3-minute time limit imposed on all speakers. We ask that you come to the podium, state your name and city of residence. You can't stand in your seat and shout out, unfortunately. During public comment, I do like to assure everybody that their staff and the elected officials do take your items seriously, and we do follow up. Although it probably will not be in the meeting tonight, we generally ask the staff to circle back with us and circle back to you and discuss the situation and then let us know the outcome. So we do follow up on these. So I have a number of requests to speak. The first one is Mr. Loeb. Good evening, sir.
Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. And first of all, it's nice to see so many people here tonight. And secondly, I wanted to announce that the library sale was $1,478. So realize that it is going pretty well. There are two other items I wanted today. I turned 75, which is why I have this little thing with me tonight.
Congratulations.
And I bought it not just to show it off, but to make a couple of points with it. Number one, that in turning 75, I've not used my Medicare benefits for the 10 years that I've had them. I see no purpose in doing it. I see this as money going to our younger generations, who I will be talking about when it comes to property tax reform. We do have to think about our younger generations when it comes to local government. I tend to come to a very simple conclusion that a no vote on the property tax reform is a yes vote for our younger generations. Now, especially the Zoomers. Why is that? Because of the fact that our younger generations will be most affected by being hired or laid off or something like that, and also that they will need the social services to get started in life more than other people might who are more established. And I think it's a very important principle. This nation a month ago turned 250, and if we want 250 more years, we got to start thinking about our younger generations and dealing with our younger generations. Another thing is that I noticed this very significant legal change within the ballot when I last looked at it a couple of times, and I recall that when the all transit tax was occurring, it cost the taxpayers $250 million. That's with a B, not an M. $250 million to deal with the legal fees. And I think to myself, gee, I wonder how much it's going to cost if they have to, just to clarify what it is that they want on the ballot. I'm not even sure, because it's a tremendous difference in the wording from what I could tell. I'm not even a lawyer. So I do feel that people need help, but I do think that they'd be better off to do it within their local government. That they come to the meetings, be active, and you know, and you might be surprised when I heard July 28th, a few things that kind of surprised me on how well you all do for yourselves on dealing with the budget, on the second reading on it. Anyway, I think that's pretty much what I have to say for now, and thank you all and good evening.
Mr. Loebmer, happy birthday. Annette Rennie? Yes, give him a round of applause. It's his 75th birthday. We can do better than that. All right. I didn't want to take that out of your 3 minutes, so. Annette Rennie.
Annette Rennie, Temple Terrace. I'm here to discuss Christmas. I know that when I moved here in the late 80s, the 56th Street corridor was Americanized and it had shops and restaurants of American style. And the first Christmas was beautiful. All the 56th Street was decorated. Now I know you've come to a decision to decorate the redevelopment, but that's apartments and grocery stores. Is there any way we can go backwards and use those decorations to decorate 56th Street, which is from Fowler up? I mean, that's our main street, and to not decorate that, to me, is not fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rennie. Lucas Hutchins, and then as you make your way to the podium is Angel Haya? Am I saying that correctly? You Mr. Haya? Haya. Are you donating your time to Mr. Hutchins?
Yes.
You do realize that that will preclude you from taking time to address the council?
I can only hope.
Okay, all right. In that case, Mr. Hutchins, Madam Clerk, that means 4 minutes. Okay, very good. Mr. Hutchins, you have 4 minutes.
My name's Lucas Hutchins, and I live in the River Run subdivision. And if many people know me as Mr. Christmas, I take Christmas very seriously. We have 142 days until Christmas. And my biggest thing is that worries me is that I'm happy that you guys have finally considered bringing some decorations to Temple Terrace by putting it in the redevelopment. But that's really, it's like tacky because the development's such a disaster. I mean, we want to see the decorations as we're driving through. We want to be like Plant City. Plant City, they decorate the main streets. It's beautiful. And people come to see it. We want people to come to Temple Terrace to see our amazing city, but it's not amazing if we're not decorating our main street. 56th Street is where the decorations need to be, going down 56th Street and Bush Boulevard and Bullard. I know that we can't put them on the Tico poles, but we can put them on the black poles. But some of them have outlets, some of them don't have outlets, so that's something that Public Works needs to take care of. We need to have outlets put on the poles so we can put the decorations there. They need to be seen when people are coming through. You know, Christmas brings the community together. You know, it's not just a holiday, it's a fun thing. People like to come and look at Christmas lights. I do the big mega display in the River Run subdivision, the Temple Terrace Light Show, and I take it very seriously every year. Thousands of people come through every year to see the display. And it's joyful. Everybody has so much fun to see the Christmas lights. We hand out hot chocolate, we give out cookies, and it's a big thing of the city. And that's what I want to see the city do. I shouldn't be doing all the work. The city needs to be doing something. Yes, we have the Winter Wonderland, but that's one day, and it really is kind of just a letdown. It's very disappointment. It's the same thing every single year. There needs to be change. We need to have something to bring people in. I mean, I've been to the Winter Wonderland every year, and it's really a letdown. You know, the Christmas tree is pretty sad. You know, and then the Christmas tree inside City Hall is the most saddest tree. It looks like somebody pulled it out of the dumpster, and then it's sad. You know, we have to put emphasis into it. We have to care as a city. We want to bring people here. We want to bring restaurants. We want to bring shops. But you have to have something for those people to come to. I mean, the city is very depressing a lot of the time. You know, I want to see change. It's sad to see what the city looks like. It never was like this. I mean, I've been here for 20 years, and it gets worse every year. You know, and it's sad that we have to go outside of Temple Terrace to go see the Christmas lights and see different things and do community events. I mean, you guys need to go to Plant City and see what Plant City does there. They're another small town, and they make us look embarrassed. I mean, we are nothing like them. I mean, they do so much. They have a Christmas parade, and everybody gets out and has a blast. We don't do that kind of stuff here. We're afraid to use the word Christmas in Temple Terrace, and I think it's the most ridiculous thing. It's Christmas. You don't have to bring religion into Christmas, but you can just celebrate Christmas. I mean, we have to change the name for everything because we're so afraid to use that word. I'm not afraid of Christmas. Christmas is Christmas. It's a time to bring joy to the community, and it doesn't have to be about religion. You know, and then, yeah, it just, we need to do the more decorations, and we need to put it together. I mean, the tree in City Hall was just sad. I mean, it wasn't even decorated. I mean, there's just no plan to anything. I mean, and then the Christmas tree over in the park there was like 3 little baubles on it and a few little pieces of tinsel. I mean, a blind person could have done better. I mean, it's sad. It's like we have the decorations, and if we don't, we have the money to get the decorations. I mean, Temple Terrace has the money, and I think $50,000 spending on the Christmas thing is pretty sad. I mean, the city has more money than that to spend. I mean, we pay the property taxes that we're paying in Temple Terrace. I mean, they've gone up way significantly over the years. I know my property taxes have gone through the roof because I refinanced my house, and my house is worth way more than it was. So the city's bringing in the revenue. We've got the revenue from Amazon when, you know, they gave us all that money, and then from the VA. I mean, and all the Horton houses that were built, we've got tax revenue coming in. We can spend some money on some Christmas decorations and bring some joy to the city. So the money is not the issue. And yes, we have the black poles. I know the Tico thing has always been an issue where we can't put things on the Tico poles. Well, we have the city black poles, so we can put the decorations down a majority of 56th Street and some of Bush Boulevard and some of Bullard. Those black poles are there. I just don't think it's a good idea to put these decorations in the downtown. I want to see it throughout the whole city. So, thank you.
Alicassi? Cassie?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm Alec Cassie, and I've had the privilege of serving the residents of Temple Terrace as a firefighter for 6 years. I also have the honor of serving as the Vice President of the Temple Terrace Professional Firefighters, IAFF Local 2160. I'm here tonight to explain why the firefighters who serve this community support the 2026 General Obligation Public Safety Bond. When most people hear the words new fire station, it's easy to think of just another municipal building, but a fire station is much more than that. It's where firefighters and paramedics plan, prepare, and stand ready for every hour of every day to serve our neighbors when they need us most. It's where life-saving equipment is maintained and ready to respond at a moment's notice. It's where school children visit on field trips, neighbors stop by to have their blood pressure checked, and families get to know the firefighters who serve their community. Most importantly, it's where firefighters respond from when your family calls 911. The 2026 bond isn't simply about constructing another building. It's about expanding Temple Terrace's ability to protect the people who call this city home. Today, there are parts of Temple Terrace where the emergency crews have farther to travel. In the area where Fire Station 3 is proposed, response times are 8 minutes and 29 seconds 90% of the time. The purpose of a third fire station isn't to give firefighters another building. It's to place emergency resources closer to the people who need them and strengthen emergency coverage across the entire city. As firefighters, we've seen firsthand that oftentimes seconds can make the difference between life and death. Whether it's a house fire, a cardiac arrest, or another life-threatening emergency, getting the right people and equipment to the right place at the right time matters. That's why we believe investing in emergency response infrastructure is really an investment in the safety of the community. The firefighters of Temple Terrace aren't supporting this bond because it's about us. We're supporting it because it's about the families who we serve every day and the communities we took an oath to protect. Every resident will make their own decision on August 18th, and we respect that. We simply wanted to share the perspective of the men and women who answer the calls, respond to emergencies, and proudly serve the city every day. We're asking residents to vote yes for a safer Temple Terrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassey. Lonnell McAllister? Lonnell McAllister? Good evening.
Giving him a handshake there. Hi, Lynell McAllister, Temple Terrace. I have 3 quick points. One is America 250. So this year we observe the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And I just would like us to see some kind of recognition for that, whether it be a resolution or maybe some banners with flags, patriotic. I was in Brooksville recently, and they had some really wonderful America 250 decorations, just some little banners. It'd be great if we could at least put that up by Veterans Day. Number two, I'd just like to say thank you to all the city staff that were involved in the parade for Independence Day. It was hot, but it was a great parade, and I know it's a lot of effort on behalf of the staff. And I'd just like to thank you all for continuing that tradition and pulling it off in the heat. And on that note, I would just like to say it really hurt me to see the police out in black uniforms. I just know it had to be really, 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 really hot for them. I don't know if anybody's ever said that before. I see some people looking towards the back. I'd be happy to chip in if you considered going to a light blue shirt at least. You know, I'd chip in on that. All right, and then I'd just like to add my comment about, Christmas decorations. When I moved here 20 years ago, that was something that was really appealing and attractive to us, and it's really sad that we have had nothing. So I'd really like us to get back to that, and I do agree with the folks who said that just in the plaza is really not what we're looking, what I would like to see. And thank you to each of you for your service. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor and members, and you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister. Karen Mahowski? Good evening.
Evening, Karen Mahalski, Temple Terrace. I'm just making a comment and give additional information. Councilwoman Fernandez made a really good point during the July 6th budget workshop. And what it was about the firefighters. It's called something out gear that has PFAS in it. And my job, I'm a support chemist, and I work for a company that we actually test for PFAS. So I'm very familiar with this, been doing it for 10 years. And I would just urge that when you are making budget considerations, that PFAS, PFAS, is just one compound. And there are many derivatives, hundreds of them, probably even now thousands of them, that are regulated. This is a new chemical. The government just isn't quite there. So I would really recommend that not just taking a marketing label, that when you are choosing equipment, that it is third-party tested. And when you're looking at third-party testing, you're making sure that that third party isn't being financially supported by the company who manufactures it. Nonprofits are also a great resource for this testing. And then continuing on the PFAS and our water, I have had candidates reach out to me and ask, hey, what is going on in Temple Terrace? I heard your water can't be, isn't good, it's not safe. And I clarify and say, no, it is. Our water is safe to drink. It meets the EPA regulations. And if anyone might be a bit concerned, you can get a Brita filter with the elite filter that will take 98.4% of your PFAS out. Again, it's just going to be the PFAS. There's so many others. But again, the amount in our water is extremely low, very, very extremely low, as compared to, say, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. It is really minute. And if you evaluate where you can have PFAS come in contact you, food from China is in the hundreds of thousands. That right there, I would be concerned of. I personally don't eat that. So I really would like the clarification. I'm not sure if the city can do anything, but it seems that our neighbors and our community still doesn't believe that our water is safe, and it is. As compared to, it is very convenient to have bottled water. Bottled water is regulated by the FDA. The FDA has no requirements for any of these chemicals, no testing, no requirements. It is different. Your EPA regulated water is much safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott Brooks. I'm sorry, I'm calling the next speaker. Scott Brooks. And while Mr. Brooks makes his way to the podium. This is the last request I have from the public currently. If you'd like to address the council, now would be a great time to go fill out that form and bring it to the city clerk.
I just wanted to take a moment. I'm a police officer here, been here for 17 years, and just want to take a moment and say thank you to the mayor and the city council for your recognition and our new contract upcoming and that vote coming up. So just want to take a minute as a representative of our union, Fraternal Order Police, just to say thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council at this time? I don't see anybody running towards the table, so I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, very good. Next up is the consent agenda. Council, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. The consent agenda is adopted. Next item is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance 1597, amending section 1-103, the definition section, section 1-104, the enforcement procedure section, and 1-105, the schedule of violation and penalties. I will open the public hearing, and our code compliance director, Jack Shanks, is here to explain. IT, I know, technical stuff, I get it.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Jack Shanks, Code Compliance. The item before you tonight is a proposed amendment to Chapter 1 of the City Code that would update verbiage, add applicable code sections to the table of Class 2 violations, and establish a new Class 4 violation category within our existing civil citation framework. I want to begin by emphasizing one key point, that this amendment is not intended to generate revenue. The purpose of this update is to improve citywide adherence to codes that already exist and are already enforceable today. What this amendment does is allow certain repeatable violations to be addressed more effectively and more immediately through civil citation, rather than relying solely on longer notice-driven enforcement processes. The first change we've made is to provide the definition of itinerant or transient in nature in section 1-103, which reads, temporary, mobile, or impermanent infractions or activities that can move locations, exist for a short duration, or are capable of being remedied and then repeated on the same day. The definition provides a clear-cut meaning to reduce the chances of misinterpretation by staff or residents now or in the future. The phrase is inserted into section 1-104, subsection D. This allows for the inclusion of violations that could be complied with and then recur quickly. It includes violations such as yard parking or commercial vehicles in residential areas, as well as certain violations relating to the short-term rental program where the renters change frequently. We have incorporated the addition of subsection L into section 1-104. This new subsection introduces an escalation procedure for certain code sections identified in section 1-105's schedule of violations. To best explain this existing and new procedure, I'll run through the standard escalation process first. In keeping with our already established enforcement process, any courtesy notice or citation will be directed to the property owner against the property. An initial violation, with few exceptions, will result in a courtesy notice with a reasonable correction period, as well as an attempt at direct contact from the code compliance team to determine if assistance is needed. If non-compliance is exhibited, or if the violation results in initial compliance followed by a pattern of non-compliance, escalation to citation will then commence. Following the issuance of a courtesy notice and a correction period, a first citation will be issued, which is designed to serve as a meaningful prompt for compliance while still allowing the responsible party an opportunity to correct the issue. The higher fine for repeat offenses reflects the fact that continued noncompliance occurs after notice and enforcement action has already taken place. This approach aligns with the city's graduated enforcement philosophy by distinguishing between initial violations and repeated disregard of the code, and by encouraging long-term compliance rather than repeated corrective cycles. If compliance is achieved, no further fines are imposed. Now the supplemental escalation process. We have re-envisioned the standard escalation process to allow additional time for certain violations, as I alluded to earlier. This provides more opportunity for initial correction while still allowing for more effective long-term results. As in both the standard escalation and current enforcement board processes, a courtesy notice will be provided to a property owner noting the violation and will then be accompanied by an appropriate correction period. Whereas in the standard process, a citation would be issued, in the supplemental process, an initial notice of violation would be issued that would also have an appropriate correction period. If still not corrected, a final notice of violation with an accompanying correction period would be issued. Following continued noncompliance, we would have exhausted all low-level methods of achieving compliance and a citation would then be issued. To reiterate, the overall intention is to avoid reaching the citation level, thereby achieving voluntary compliance at the lowest level possible. The overwhelming majority of our residents do comply voluntarily. Our code compliance officers are authorized to issue citations only for those violations specifically listed in the Schedule of Violations and Penalties. The violations proposed for inclusion under Class 2 and the new Class 4, as you see here, are all existing code provisions. Nothing new is being prohibited. The challenge we encounter with these types of violations is that most are easily repeatable, and under our current enforcement structure, there is little immediate incentive for sustained compliance. This becomes an irritant for neighbors and businesses who abide by the city's code, yet witness a drawn-out compliance process for violators, which, in the case of the code sections proposed this evening, should have achieved compliance immediately. You'll note that several code sections have asterisks. These are the codes that will receive the supplemental enforcement escalation that includes the courtesy notice, notice of violation, and final notice of violation. In practice, we often see the same violation types recur after temporary correction, which creates ongoing neighborhood impacts and increased staff time without achieving long-term resolution. This ordinance update is intended to change that dynamic. By allowing civil citations for these specific violations, the city can encourage quicker and more consistent compliance, reduce repeat violations, and ultimately reduce the need for prolonged enforcement cases. The goal is behavioral correction, not punishment, and the intent is not to issue citations indiscriminately, but to provide officers with an additional tool when voluntary compliance has proven ineffective or when immediate correction is necessary. This is a breakdown of all the Municipal Code Enforcement Board cases for the past year. What you see here includes only the violation types that were presented to the MCEB over 13 months. There were well over 4,000 cases created in that same time frame, but these 129 cases were the ones that actually required MCEB attention. As an example, please look at the very first violation type on the chart, grass, weeds, underbrush. You can see that over the span, there were 661 total cases. Out of those cases, 653 complied at either the courtesy notice or notice of violation. 8 out of those 661 cases received notice of hearing and were subsequently presented to the board. For the ease of viewing, I've placed the violation types we've introduced in this ordinance for citation at the top. Those with the asterisks are the ones with the supplemental escalation process requirement. In these code sections, or if these code sections had received citations, a total of 52 cases would have been removed from the MCEB. It is also very likely, with the knowledge of facing a citation, a good number of these would have complied voluntarily instead of requiring a citation being issued, which is actually the goal. Removing those cases, there still would have been 77 cases for the board to have heard. So over the 13 months, that would have been approximately 6 cases per month being presented. In summary, this ordinance strengthens our ability to enforce the codes already on the books, improves compliance outcomes, and supports neighborhood stability without expanding regulation or creating new prohibitions. Staff recommends approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shanks. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none. Councilmember questions. Councilmember Kravitz.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. It's nicely put together. I have one question, which is regarding the written policy about the escalation process.
Yes.
This came up previously, and will that be circulated to City Council or posted online so that the public can look at it when it's ready?
We can absolutely do that. I have a draft here. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Once everything is approved, I'll circulate it through, and we can get it out to everybody.
Thank you. That was my question. I appreciate it. I yield.
I just had one minor question, and then I'm not trying to slice and dice and reparse it, but Class 2, which is worse, Class 2 or Class 4?
Well, Class 2 is, it escalates. So the Class 2 are lesser fines.
Okay, Class 4, in my mind, based upon the penalties, was more of a serious infraction, more concern. Just curious, why was the swimming pools put as a Class 4?
I'm sorry, why?
Swimming pool violations are put as a Class 4.
Because it's important. It's something that can be impacted immediately. We drive up to a house and the fence is knocked down. That's something we need to impact very, very quickly due to safety for children.
Agreed. But isn't a 4 more serious than a 2?
Oh, I apologize. No, the reason that it's a 2 is due to the fine amount. Typically, when we run into the swimming pools, it's not something that is going to, somebody's done on purpose. It's something that has happened.
Okay.
And we need them to respond quickly.
Okay.
Typically, we're going to run into a situation where we give them the notice of violation or the courtesy notice in that regard, and it's going to be fixed immediately anyway.
I know there's only 3. It's just a curious question. Okay, I'm fine. I'm good.
Councilmember Fernandez? I have one. So pick a really transient violation. Yard parking, let's just say yard parking. Can be fixed in 30 seconds. You go out and move your car.
Right.
So let's just say somebody is parking in their yard and you go knock on the door and tell them, hey, you're parked in your yard, you got to move your car. They move the car. Okay, walk me through, what happens, they park in the yard every day. So tell me the enforcement process. I mean, when do they get warned? At what point do you go up and give them a citation? I mean, walk me through the steps of how you would escalate that.
Sure. So for a yard parking, for example, we would approach the property just like we do now. We would knock on the door, make a phone call, try to get hold of them somehow. If we can't make contact, we're going to leave a door hanger that states this is a courtesy notice. That is the warning. That is the courtesy notice. From there, they're going to have a period of time, typically 7 to 10 days. Now, we want that to happen very, very quickly, obviously immediately, and that's what we're going to put. We're going to put, please fix this immediately. Past that 7 to 10 days, it's going to escalate to the notice of violation. That's where the enforcement escalates. They're going to get another 7 to 10 days for that. Once that occurs, and they don't comply, they'll receive the citation. Now, following the citation, should they still not comply, we move to a second citation and a third citation, and it's subsequent after that.
Okay, so turns out this is a good example, because suppose you go up, you leave the door hanger, they move the car. 2 days later, they put the car back, which is what we're trying to address.
Correct.
2 days later, they put the car back. What happens then? Because the first violation was cured, this is now a new violation. How do we deal with this?
It's the same violation.
It's the same
It's
violation.
the same violation. So they would receive the courtesy notice. They're told, you cannot park here. This is why you cannot park here. Here's the code that specifies this, and they're given the education right there on the spot. Now, there are going to be extenuating circumstances where somebody is parking there for a reason. Maybe temporarily, they have to get something into the house. Not a problem.
Yeah,
just move it when you're
just
finished.
sticking with the
Go on.
person that's playing games with the system, like I'm gonna
Right.
move the car, put it back, move the car, put it back. So that's
It's the
part
same
of the,
violation. The violation is parking in your yard. So we give them the courtesy notice. 2 days later, they park in the grass again. A week later, they park in the grass again. Now they get a notice of violation. So the escalation moves like that. So eventually, they're going to start getting the actual citations.
and is there a point in this process where there's no more notices? They get, your first action is, okay, this person gets a citation at any point now?
Once a violation occurs, they have 5 years. There's a 5-year period. Once that violation occurs, that they cannot recur that again. That's standard right now.
So it's, all right, I got you. Thank you. Council members, other questions? Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Council of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1, General Provisions, Article 2, Code Enforcement, Division 3, Supplemental Enforcement Procedures by amending Section 1-103, by amending Section 1-104D, by creating Section 1-104L, by amending Section 1-105B, and by creating Section 1-105D, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for inclusion in the Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion to approve on second reading?
Move to approve on second reading ordinance 1597, amending section 1-103, definitions, section 1-104, enforcement procedures, and 1-105, schedule of violations and penalties.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Kravitz.
Just do have one comment on it. In a few minutes, we're going to be addressing commercial vehicles. That's part of this ordinance that we're voting on right now. When we approve this, we're about to go and amend it again, potentially. And I think we will have some discussion about the number and size of commercial vehicles that's being proposed that might be permitted in people's driveways going forward. So when we vote yes on this, it's on a classification of weight that's much lower than the one that's going to be up for discussion shortly. So I just want to mention that so that everyone is aware of this fact. And then as we go to discuss the other one, we can be aware that we're passing a code revision right now that we're about to amend. So I do like this revision, and I think it's a good step forward. And I think that a lot of these transient ordinances have been troublesome. So it's good that we're getting to grips with that. And I do look forward to receiving the staff policy about the escalation process, and for that to be made public. Because in the past, that's always been a bit of a contentious point for many residents about who gets what level of warning and who might get more or less leeway. So having that all public and transparent is a really positive step, and I just want to commend Code Enforcement and Director Shanks for their effort in that direction and making sure that everyone plays by the same rules here. So thank you. I yield.
Other comments on the motion? Mr. Shanks, would you clarify something for us, please? Because I have a different understanding, and I don't know if we amend the commercial vehicle ordinance, which we are, as Councilmember Kravitz pointed out, we're contemplating soon. The way I understood the presentation, this would not need to be amended because this would just deal with enforcement of violations.
Of that code, correct.
So this wouldn't be amended if we amend that?
No, because the code number isn't changing. The code is the code. That number is in the ordinance I just presented. The number's not changing. So whatever is in the new amendment for the commercial vehicles is what we're going to be enforcing regardless.
Okay. Okay, because I mean, the point is well taken. I don't want to do this if we're going to come right back to it. That's
Right, there's no changes to this.
okay. Very good. Other discussion of the motion? Yes, Councilmember Kravitz.
Just briefly clarify, I wasn't saying that we're going to amend this section. I was saying the section that this section refers to is what we're about to amend. So it'll have sort of an amplifying effect if we then go and change the provision that the penalties apply to. That was all.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on second reading. Thank you, Mr. Shanks. So next item is a public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1598, creating Code Chapter 20, Article 4, Speed Zone Enforcement Program. And I'll open the public hearing. We have two presenters, our Deputy City Attorney Nicole Donnell, and it changed up on me. It's the police chief is going to join her tonight. Okay, and Police Chief Staley. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Tonight, we are bringing a proposed ordinance before you for a second time. This ordinance allows for the use and implementation of speed detection systems within school zones here in Temple Terrace. The ordinance is titled School Speed Zone Enforcement Program and Speed Detection Systems. Florida Statute Section 316.1896 authorizes local governments to use speed detection systems to enforce speed limits in school zones during specified hours, specifically when school is in session. This statute also authorizes the city to issue notices of violation when a person drives at a greater speed than that which is posted in a school zone. Chapter 316 of Florida statute requires a traffic study to be conducted where a speed detection system is being considered and proposed. Resulting data must be considered before a speed detection system can be implemented. A traffic study was conducted in February of this year, and data shows there is a heightened safety risk in 5 specific school zones within Temple Terrace. Those 5 schools are Greco Middle School, Woodmont Charter School, Temple Terrace Elementary School, Lewis Elementary School, and River Hills Elementary Magnet School. The police department has determined that implementing speed detection systems in these 5 school zones are in the best interest of the city. Chapter 316 allows a local hearing officer to conduct hearings on violations that are issued. The local hearing officer will be a licensed Florida attorney. Assuming this ordinance passes, the local hearing officer will be compensated on a flat fee basis from the violations that are assessed. Monies paid from the violations. The ordinance before you is modeled after surrounding cities, including the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County. By having the speed detection system ordinance in our city code, the police department will effectively enforce the speed enforcement in those 5 school zones. I will be here for questions, and I will turn it over to Chief Staley, who will also be able to provide additional information on implementation.
So now, Chief?
Good evening. Since the last City Council meeting, staff has evaluated the concerns raised by the mayor and raised by Councilmember Fernandez. Staff originally planned to use the piggyback purchasing process, which would have been an acceptable procurement process. However, the requested changes that were recommended represent a significant departure from the plantation agreement. As a result, staff can no longer use this agreement for this project. Staff will instead issue a request for proposals to develop a contract that addresses the concern raised by council and the city's requirements for the project. This will address all of the concerns regarding data sharing, data deletion, everything that we talked about in the last council meeting. So all of your concerns will be addressed. We recommend that you approve and implement the ordinance, and this will result in us publishing the RFP, which will be posted for 30 to 60 days, and we will evaluate all of the companies that make presentations.
Thank you, Chief. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Councilmember questions?
Yes.
Start down this end. Councilmember Fernandez.
So I have a couple questions. The first being the school zone markings or the delineation that identify the time when a school zone is active. Who manages those markings? Because, I mean, I obviously still know when school starts. However, a few years from now, when I really am disconnected from school, there's a lot of people driving around that have no connection to a school. They don't have any idea what time school zones are active. Who's going to maintain that information to make sure that it is well marked and well noticed to drivers?
Absolutely. So, great question. The signage that's out there now will be replaced with new signage that indicates that there's speed zone cameras in use. When that does happen, it will be updated and will have proper flashing, so that way they know what times are being enforced.
So who's going to actually control the flashing, the time?
The company that installs the actual flashing light. So whatever company we do choose will be responsible for maintaining the signage.
Okay, so what about, and we talked about this at the last meeting, and it was that for City of Temple Terrace was planning, our enforcement would be only operational during the times of active school zone, the flashing light times.
Right.
And I wondered at that time if it's possible for that to actually be written into the ordinance versus being a policy. I didn't see it actually I didn't see that verbiage actually in the ordinance, and my concern is that over time these can grow. And if we're looking to create safety and change behavior during specific school zone active times, I want to make sure that it doesn't accidentally grow and change. And if it's in the ordinance itself, it would have to come in front of city council for the times to be changed.
Right, so it doesn't mention the specific times in the ordinance, but what it does say is that 30 minutes prior to breakfast and then 30 minutes after the start of school is
Okay.
when that morning is enforced. Also, in the evening or in the after school, it would be 30 minutes prior to dismissal and 30 minutes after dismissal. So we could call out the times individually, but
No, I wasn't, I just was wanting to make sure that that is actually part of the ordinance itself and not part of the policies or the, and I just didn't see the 30 minutes after school started, so, okay. That is, I think, all I wanted to ask.
Yes.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And at the last meeting, you walked us through this, but I'd like to do it again. So someone's going too fast during school zone time, and the camera records their license and everything. And does it take a picture of the driver also, or just it goes with the car?
just the rear of the vehicle.
Okay, so the citation will go to the owner of the car. Okay, so that happens. And one of our officers, will they look at every violation that comes in, looks at the camera picture and everything?
Yes, sir.
Is there any verification to make sure that even though let's say the thing, flashing light was mistimed or schools closed that day for whatever reason, that they verify the days and the times?
Yes, as part of the workflow, that's one of the responsibilities of the officers. They verify that the day that the school is in session, they verify the times that were designated for that day prior to issuing any citation.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Schussler?
Yeah, you answered the question about who actually be doing the monitoring. That'll be part of the RFP, I'm sure.
Yes.
You know, for the individual companies. But then what about the data retention?
So the data retention, as of right now, we're writing the RFP that'll clearly establish the data retention period and require a permanent deletion of all data once the period expires. The vendor will also provide a survey and evaluation of the process and measure the program's effectiveness at 6 months, 1 year, and annually thereafter. So the data retention that we set is what the company has to follow.
Okay. And the only other thing was setting the times for the, when the cameras will be active. I'm glad you worded it the way it was worded in the ordinance, because they change bell schedules all the time. Every couple of years they're changing around. So we'd be amending that ordinance into ad nauseum going forward. So, okay, good. I'm okay with it.
Councilmember Kravitz?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, a question for the Deputy City Attorney. Thank you very much for the introduction. I appreciate that. Well laid out the statutes. I found it and I checked. And I just wanted to ask where in the ordinance, I just cannot find it unless you mean, is it section 20-69? And then, it's 2069, and then there's one down here where it references the Florida statute, B. Or is it, I had it here a minute ago, but where is the speed limtation, the timing? I cannot find it in this ordinance at all.
When you say the timing, are you talking about
The enforcement windows, yeah.
Okay, so the enforcement windows, as Chief mentioned, we are allowed to enforce, according to the statute, there's at 30 minutes before and after breakfast and then school as well. It is not specifically stated in the ordinance. If you all would like it to be in there expressly, then that's an option, but I believe City Manager has a comment.
I don't want to take away from your time. I just wanted to clarify a little bit, pick up on what they said.
Go ahead, yeah.
So we were just looking forward to, so that was a little bit of just a miscommunication. So we don't find it in the ordinance either, but I understand the Deputy City Attorney says it's in the foundational statute. But I do want to state, I understand the council member's concern, but I would also say that the contract, where we would put that type of language would be in the contract of whatever provider is going to come before you. And whatever provider is going to come before let's say a future contract with a future city council, they would have the ability written into the contract to change times, things like that. If you didn't feel comfortable, whatever that would be our expectation, that we write that into the contract.
Yes.
you're saying yes, right? You're confirming that for the record, yes. So, and in fact, we'd probably put that in the RFP, that we'd have, our requirements would be that we would control the times, and that would be delineated in the contract. I think, and I get where you're coming from, so I'm gonna say, just generally speaking, we typically would recommend that the ordinance be a little bit more flexible, so that you don't have to amend the ordinance on a frequent basis if things change, contracts change. Well, a contract's much easier to amend, because it comes up for renewal and things like that, rather than the ordinance. But of course, that is up to the will of the council.
Sure. I mean, I understand the necessity in keeping statutes applicable to a large number of cases. My concern about this is that at least 3 people up on the dais have said that they believe that the language is in the statute. And it was mentioned today in the minutes. The mayor also said, noted that this language is in the ordinance, but it isn't. So I don't know if I like that. And there seems to be a lot of ambiguity about it. So my inclination right now would be to ask staff to go back and simply incorporate the Florida statute by reference. You can simply make a reference somewhere in this ordinance to section 316-18961A. And then that would address the problem that several of us have raised. So that would be my recommendation. And I'm happy to make a motion to that effect unless someone else has a better idea about how to address this. I'm not sure if just having it in the contract that we ultimately get is going to be enough for us to rely on legally, especially for our residents, because the residents are going to chiefly be subject to the statute. The contract is between the city and the provider. So I'm happy to make the motion unless someone else would like to. Otherwise, I'll go for it. So I would like to amend this ordinance 1598 by instructing staff to add a new sentence to section 20-71 to incorporate the Florida statute governing enforcement windows by reference.
Mayor, I still had questions.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh, well, there's a motion.
So,
Happy to
but we
withdraw it
have-
until we've all had our chance to ask questions. So motion's withdrawn. I'll come back to it later.
Do you have any further questions?
I don't know you before.
Councilmember Chambers?
Right, so you just heard that dialogue. If we addressed in the ordinance, the statute in the ordinance, does that preclude you from doing anything later down the road like you were talking about? If we put the statute number in the ordinance, and not the times in the ordinance, I'm asking anybody, but that's what Councilmember Kravitz was wanting, to put the statute number in the ordinance, not the times in the ordinance, because if you do that, then yes, you have to come back every time you, times change. So would that, somebody,
Somebody take it.
So if the statute 316.1896 is referenced in the ordinance a few times, but not the specific subsection that Councilman Kravitz is referencing. So we can put that in the ordinance specifically as a reference that's being recommended, if that's what you all would like.
and would that hinder us anyway, or future councils?
No, it would not.
Thank you.
Did we get all the way up and down the dais with questions? I think we did. So I have a question for Councilmember Kravitz. I'm not opposed to the intent of your motion, I just have a question about it. So I'm looking at page 4 of the ordinance, which is section 20-69. And the last paragraph on there is G, and it's uniform traffic citation. Means the citation issued to the registered owner of a vehicle for a school zone speed infraction in the form and including the contents prescribed by sections 316-1896 and 316-650. I'm not opposed to clarifying further that we don't want these cameras being used to enforce speed outside of the school zone times. But is that what that says, or are we, I mean,
referenced a few times in the ordinance, but not that specific subsection.
Okay. So are there further questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
So I want to clarify where my question was coming from, and that is at the last meeting, what I heard and what I understood is that the state statute allows for speed enforcement in school zones anytime school is in session, not just during the active school arrival and departure times. Is that not allowed by statute? I know that you've said that we were only going to enforce it during specific school arrival and departure times, but I thought that I understood that it could be enforced throughout the day, and that is one of my concerns, is that I didn't want it throughout the school day.
So I think we're confusing two issues. There's the school zone enforcement, but there's
Yes.
also the speeding enforcement. So with the other jurisdictions, which are 30 minutes prior to breakfast, 30 minutes after going to school, 30 minutes prior to dismissal, 30 minutes after dismissal.
Okay, so then what I'm asking is a way that it's clarified. I'm not asking you, to be clear, to put 7:15 to 7:45 Lewis Elementary School Zone. I know that they change arrival and departure times every year. I want us to be able to delineate the time period, describe the time period that we would be using this for enforcement, meaning that the 30 minutes before, the 30 minutes after break, whatever that description is, that's clearly delineated to the arrival and departure times for the school zone. Not, and so, because my concern is mission creep, and that it gets, so I'm just concerned about it in general being used for more than the originally stated purpose. And that's what I want to make sure. So that's where my question is. That's what I wanted to clarify, and that's what I would like to see in the language.
Well, Councilmember Kravitz's motion will cover all of that when he gets to that.
But I just wanted to clarify why I was
The
asking.
section that he proposes to add will cover that.
Yes.
Mr. Mueller.
Just say if we are going to add that in and want that actually in the language of this ordinance, my recommendation would be tonight would then be again another first reading, and then we would have second reading again in 2 weeks. Reason being, this is a penal type of ordinance that we're doing. People are going to be penalized by it. I'd rather not have any procedural issue that might nullify it. So I think in an abundance of caution, if we put that language in, first reading again tonight, and then second reading with the new language again.
Okay. Any further questions? Councilmember Kravitz.
Councilmember Fernandez, do you want to have that motion?
Well, it's not time for a motion yet. We're in the middle of a hearing. We have to go through a few steps, but if there are no other questions, we'll go through those steps real quick, and then we'll entertain a motion. No more questions? Okay, if there are no further questions, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City Council of Temple Terrace, Florida, creating the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Chapter 20, Article 4, titled School Speed Zone Enforcement Program and Speed Detection Systems, providing for use of speed detection systems in accordance with state law, providing for definitions, providing for use of local hearing officer, providing for the designation of school speed detection zone, providing for severability, providing for conflicts with state law, providing for codification, directing that the ordinance be filed with the Department of State, providing for correction of Scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and just, I think everybody heard, but just for whoever makes the motion, if it's our intent to add that language, the motion also needs to include the direction that it be brought back for first reading to council.
Correction, that tonight would be first reading. That if we make the motion, it would be first reading tonight. And when we bring it back in 2 weeks, we'll have second.
Okay, I didn't understand that, that's what you said, but okay, that's fine. So that language would need to be in the motion. Okay, so we had all this discussion, are we gonna have a motion?
Well, right now, we don't even have a motion to adopt, so that's what.
That's what I'm asking for.
Wow, okay.
We need a motion, if we want to add, we can do a number of things here. We can make a motion to approve it as it is, bring it back, or approve it on second reading. If we desire to, and I think it's probably a great idea, to make a motion to add language to clarify that we want this only during school zone times, then we can add that bullet to the ordinance and direct that it be brought back for second reading. We can do that, or we can disapprove it on second reading. I don't know what else we could do.
Okay, so let me try this.
Okay.
All right. So move to approve on first reading of ordinance 1598, creating Code Chapter 20, Article 4, School Speed Zone Enforcement Program, adding, and I don't know the numbers,
Sorry, just the language that I put in it.
adding the language that will be put in that we just discussed. Is that okay?
Adding
I mean,
language
what-
that it will only be enforced during
Adding
school
the-
zone times.
Okay, adding only, I'm not sure that's my intent, to
Okay,
add
well,
the,
then-
well, to add the section that we were just talking about that clarifies those times, but not adding, does that make sense, anybody?
It would be section 316.1895.
316,
Point 1895.
1895. Adding section 316.1890,
1895 talks about the 30 minutes prior to breakfast time.
I don't think so. I have it in front of me right here.
According to 316.1895, paragraph 5, it says a school speed zone limit may not be less than 15 miles per hour except by local regulation. No school zone speed limit shall be more than 20 miles per hour in an urbanized area. Such speed limit may be enforced only during those times 30 minutes before, during, and 30 minutes after the periods of time where pupils are arriving at regularly scheduled breakfast program or regularly scheduled school session and leaving a regularly scheduled school session.
With
That's
all due respect to
1895.
the City attorney, the section that we're adding is the one relating to breakfast program and so forth. And that is in 316.1896. So there might be additional language about arrival and departure and so forth in the provision that you've cited. But the specific topic that we've been addressing, which is the breakfast stuff, the starting of the school session, and the 30 minutes and 30 minutes before and after the regular end of the school session, that is in 316.1896.
Okay,
Promise
well,
you.
we'll make sure that it's clarified that those are.
I can pass my computer around, you can read it if you want.
Can I make a
Sure, please.
suggestion to council?
Also, the deputy city attorney, I believe, referenced that statute too, so.
I think we all have the same intent here, and we're getting wrapped around the axle on stuff. I think all we're trying to do is to put a statement in the ordinance that says we only want to use these citations during school zone times. I don't know that it's crucial that school zone times, if the beacon is flashing, that's it. I think we're overthinking this a little bit. I mean, I think our intent is that we don't want to do what not everybody, what other cities have done is, okay, the speed limit goes from 15 to 25, and they're still running the cameras. We don't want that. We just want this during school zone hours. Can't we just make a motion to approve on first reading this with the addition of a sentence that says we only want this done during school zone hours? They'll put that in there. It's a simple sentence. And then direct them to bring it back for second reading. It's really, I think we're getting too.
Okay.
I think the intent we all agree on.
Say, incorporate the relevant Florida statutes by, there you go.
Okay, Well, then we'll argue over which is the relevant Florida statutes.
Well, that's what we've been doing for the last 5 minutes here, so.
I know, I thought you were gonna make a motion.
I'm trying to.
You
I'm
made a
trying to
good
resolve
motion, I
that.
wish you'd just make it again.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
Motion, you got motion in process.
Well, I don't think you ever finished the motion.
I have no clue what I did. So, so I will withdraw whatever I did.
Okay. Would you like to, I think what you started out to do at the beginning was good.
I'm happy to do it. Okay, I'm going to do this as simply as I can. So I'll move to adopt agenda item 12B with the instruction to staff that the relevant Florida statutes regarding timing windows for enforcement in school zones be incorporated by reference into the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, I think we need to tell them to bring it back for second reading, though. Do you mind adding that?
And to bring it back for a second reading at the appropriate time.
Good, thank you.
Second.
Yes.
We'll need a date certain on the second reading, which would probably be the August 17th,
Why?
on August 17th.
Why is that?
Because we're on the record and want people to know when second reading is going to be. We can't use that at the appropriate time, we should use the date.
Did this make it onto the agenda with a date certain attached?
I believe that it did, let's see.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it was made specific for
Yeah,
August 4th.
second reading always includes a date.
All right. Well. All right. When do you want it back then, staff? How much do you need time?
We can have it back the 17th.
The 18th?
17th.
17th? And to submit it for a second reading on the 17th, then I'll amend it. Okay.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays?
Me, I'm no.
One no. Okay, so ordinance 1598, creating code chapter 20, article 4 regarding speed zone enforcement is approved now on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on August the 17th. Okay, thank you, council. Next item is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending land development code sections 12-40 and 12-81, reasonable accommodation procedure for recovery residences. I will open the public hearing, and senior planner Alyssa Livingstone will explain. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. May I have a couple of minutes? The laptop is
Oh.
closed.
Uh-oh.
Nobody seems to be coming to your rescue. Here we go.
Awesome.
There we go.
Uh-oh.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Alyssa Livingstone, Senior Planner. I'm here to present proposed text amendments to the city's Land Development Code. These updates focus on Section 1240, definitions, and Section 1281, reasonable accommodation procedures, to ensure compliance with 2026 Florida statutes regarding the review and approval process for certified recovery residences. Additionally, please note that the Hillsborough County City-County Planning Commission officially approved these text amendments on June 8th, 2026. These proposed amendments do not introduce a brand new code requirement, as the city's reasonable accommodation procedures were originally adopted on July 18th, 2017 to comply with state and federal housing mandates. These amendments clarify and update our existing policies and procedures for reviewing and processing reasonable accommodation requests to align with the updated 2026 Florida statutes. If approved, this text amendment will adopt the statewide definition of certified recovery residences. The proposed amendment to Section 1281, Reasonable Accommodation Procedures, implements the requirements of Section 397.487 of the Florida statutes by establishing a process for requesting reasonable accommodations from any land development code regulation that may prohibit the establishment of a certified recovery residence. In this section, a disabled individual is defined as someone who qualifies as disabled or handicapped under the FHA and/or ADA and has a disability as defined by Section 760.22 of the Florida statutes. These individuals may request reasonable accommodations regarding the city's LDC and procedures as provided by the Federal Fair Housing Act and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendments on first reading and public hearing. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for Monday, August 17th, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Livingstone. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions? Questions? Any questions? Councilmember Fernandez.
I do. But what I've read and what you've explained is that basically this is a change that the city is required to make in order to be in compliance with state statutes. Is that correct?
That's correct, Councilmember Fernandez.
Okay, so I guess I'm not really understanding what the purpose is behind this, because we already have codes that require, if somebody needs to update their housing to be ADA compliant or something, that's all permissible already. So what is so different about this that we need to make a change?
Okay, so these proposed amendments, they actually, the first part of it is that it adopts the statewide definition of certified recovery residences. So previously currently in our LDC, there's no outline definition of certified recovery residence. And also there's a streamlined process which is established with review time. So the Community Development Department or staff, we actually have set review times. And I could explain it if you'd like me to.
Well, so
those weren't clear in our LDC.
Okay, so this is basically that if an organization purchases a residential home and they want to make it a certified recovery residential location, that is already allowed under federal fair housing requirements, all of that. So that existed, but we didn't have a good definition of what that, to describe that type of unit.
Correct.
Okay. And why would we, so I just want to, for anybody who's listening, I just want to, so that they can hear. So why would we need to have more updated description? Because we already do have in our codes the timelines for somebody coming in front of us to modify their home to be ADA compliant?
All right, so what this amendment does is that it provides more of a clear outline. So I could explain it if you'd like some more clarification.
Yeah, if you have a short
Okay.
explanation, yes.
All right, so to ensure administrative accountability, the community development staff will date stamp completed applications upon receipt. The city manager or their designee may request additional information within 30 days of the initial filing. The applicant then has 30 days to provide the requested documentation. Once an application is deemed complete, the city has 60 days to issue a final determination. If a request is denied, the city must provide evidence-based reasons for the denial, identifying specific deficiencies or actions required for reconsideration. To ensure predictable timelines, the code establishes a 60-day review period as a firm deadline. And failure to meet this deadline results in a deemed approved status unless a written extension is mutually agreed on by both parties.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Greg Pauly, Director of Community Development. I just wanted to make sure that we're all talking the same language here. This has nothing to do with requirements to make your home ADA compliant. This has everything to do with state mandate requiring the city to provide relief from traditional land development codes, zoning regulations, and things of that nature that benefits someone who needs that relief. Specifically, in this case, they've made recovery residences part of that group that would be eligible for this type of relief. So I think we may have been talking two different languages there at one point, and I just want everybody to be on the same page. Tonight's amendment only addresses a standardized definition for recovery residences throughout the state that is adopted by the state and imposed on the communities through mandate, and also the application and review process. It formalizes the application and review process, which includes the timelines that Ms. Livingstone was just discussing.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, any questions? Councilmember Schisler?
Can you better define a recovery residence?
The reference traditionally that is used here is, it means, she's got the definition right here. It says means a residential dwelling unit or other form of group housing that is offered or advertised through any means, including oral, written, electronic, and printed means as a residence that provides peer support, alcohol-free, and drug-free living environment.
Okay, so we're talking about a rehab facility?
We're talking about specifically alcohol recovery and drug recovery.
Okay, like the residence we had, or the building that was done on South River Hills. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's what I thought, because now I was getting a little confused with what you were saying, because that's not as I understood it. Okay, all right. Back to where I was. All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kravitz.
Thank you. I have a very narrow question. This is about section 1281E4 in this ordinance, and it says if a final written application is not issued within 60 days, ... then it's deemed approved. So my question to you is, do you have administratively something set up to track and the aging on these applications so that that never happens?
We do have tracking in our permitting office now. It's a very manual process. This process will be elevated quite advanced, quite a bit more when we get our new system online. It is manual, and in addition to this, we have to track aging on pretty much everything we touch nowadays, based on a lot of other legislative amendments that have just gone into effect at the first of last month. So to answer your question is yes, we do. Is it a perfect scenario? No, it's not. There are clauses within the language that allows for a mutual agreed upon extension. If there is something that comes up that is just not clear if it qualifies, that would require extending that 60 days longer.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear that, and I'm just going to pass this along as encouragement. You know, I would make sure that these get tracked somehow automatically, and that at certain stages in the process there are automated warnings that go out, so that there's no risk that one of these is approved without the proper review on our end to see what we can do and whether it can be made to fit in better with whatever other plans and concepts we may want.
Absolutely.
So that's all. I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Are there other questions? If there are no other questions, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the Temple Terrace Land Development Code as amended by amending sections 12-40 definitions, 12-81 reasonable accommodation procedures, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for correction of typographical errors, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
Move to approve ordinance on first reading, amending Land Development Code, Section 12-40 definitions and 12-81 reasonable accommodation procedures for recovery residences, and to schedule a second public hearing for the second reading on August 17, 2026.
Second.
Very good. Motion and a second. Discussion of the motion. Good. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. The ordinance is passed on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on Monday, August the 17th, 2026. Remember, this is Monday, not our regular Tuesday night. So, good. Next item is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending Land Development Code Sections 12-40 and 12-922, commercial vehicle restrictions in residential districts. I will open the public hearing. And our senior planner, Alyssa Livingston. Well, no, I see we changed up again. This is twice, you guys. You're just trying to keep me on my toes. So our Community Development Director, Greg Pauley, is here to explain.
Keeping you on your toes tonight, Mr. Mayor. Once again, good evening, Mayor and Council. Greg Pauley, your Director of Community Development. I'm here tonight to present for you a Land Development Code text amendment, number LDC 2503, pertaining to the commercial vehicles restrictions in residential districts. The purpose of this amendment is to address existing code text that is somewhat ambiguous, outdated, and difficult to enforce. The goal is to establish clear and objective standards for restricting certain commercial vehicles in residential districts. The current text provides for 2 existing reasonable exceptions. The proposed amendment restates these same exceptions as well as adds 2 additional reasonable exceptions to provide allowances for residents who drive company vehicles and unmodified pickup trucks for work purposes. As you may recall, most of you may recall, we discussed this in great detail at the Land Development Workshop early last year. At that time, I shared with you various examples of code from neighboring jurisdictions and also a few from other jurisdictions in South Florida. I also introduced during that workshop the concept of utilizing gross vehicle weight rating as set by the Federal Highway Administration as a baseline for categorizing various vehicle types. Feedback from that workshop was ultimately utilized to prepare tonight's amendment. This amendment has been developed in collaboration with Mr. Jack Shank's Code Compliance Department to ensure clear standards that are easy to understand and enforce. The amendment was also presented to the Planning Commission by Ms. Livingstone earlier this year, and it was approved by the Planning Commission. The scope of tonight's amendment includes edits to the definitions in Section 1240, specifically the definition of commercial vehicle, and also a rewrite of compliance standards found in Section 12-922. The full red line edit version is available in your agenda packages. Here's a quick look at the two definitions, the top one being the current existing. You can see there a self-propelled or towed vehicle used in commerce to transport passengers other than the driver or cargo. And the proposed definition, a bit more robust, a motorized vehicle or trailer that is designed, used, or intended for the transportation of goods, equipment, or passengers for commercial purposes, financial gain, or as part of a service for hire, a business, an enterprise, or a not-for-profit. Here's a simplified version of the same table I showed you at the workshop. This is the gross vehicle weight rating table. Now you'll see that this has been tailored down only for the first 4 class levels. Anything at 4 or above would not be permitted under this ordinance. The vehicles are simply too big. So we'll focus mostly on 1, 2, and 3. As a reminder, the gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR, represents the maximum total weight in pounds that a vehicle can safely handle, and that number includes the dry weight of the vehicle, the weight of the passengers on board, the weight of the fuel, cargo, and even the trailer hitch tongue weight is included in that number. Here you will see that under Class 1, that is 0 to 6,000 pounds. These are most of your passenger vehicles, your light trucks, and things of that nature. Under Class 2, this jumps from 6,001 to 10,000 pounds. These are your full-size pickup trucks, vans, and things of that traditional size. Class 3 moves up the step even further. These are your pickup trucks and vans that most of us are familiar with and marketed as Super Duty, Heavy Duty, things of that nature. And again, these are pickup truck class or van class vehicles. These are not the giant heavy-duty commercial trucks. These are often labeled by manufacturers F-250, F-350, 2500, 3500, things of that nature. Anything above that 350 class range is going to jump beyond what this category will allow. And again, I don't think I mentioned the number there, but it's 10,001 all the way up to 14,000 pounds. And then, as I mentioned previously, once you get into that 4th layer there, you notice it says 4 plus because there are several layers beyond this. And those are vehicles that are substantially larger with a GVWR 14,001 and greater pounds. The amendment identifies the applicable zoning districts. It actually calls them out individually and identifies them: single-family residential, multifamily residential, and planned development districts that are limited to residential dwellings. The general prohibitions, this section has also been restated to include the 5 items that you see listed here. The amendment addresses general prohibitions based on gross vehicle weight rating classification, use type, and/or modification. They include motorized commercial vehicles with a Class 3 vehicle weight rating or greater, and trailers defined as commercial vehicles pursuant to Section 12-40 as amended. Next one is commercial vehicles regardless of weight classification modified with equipment racks, service beds, and other service equipment mounted to the exterior or the open bed area of the vehicle. Next, we have box trucks, step vans, walk-in vans, panel trucks, food trucks, and similar vehicles. Below that, we have tow trucks, boom trucks, crane trucks, bucket trucks, and similar vehicles. And then finally, we have motorized heavy equipment used for earth moving, land clearing, and construction farming. Construction or farming. Reasonable exceptions. As I opened, I mentioned that there are 2 existing exceptions, and they are here on the screen. The first one is an exception for vehicles that are stopped or parked on a temporary basis and actively loading, unloading, or providing services for hire in the immediate area. And the next one also restated from existing text within the code. The commercial vehicle is fully enclosed in a garage or similar structure and situation is approved by the city council after notification is given to adjacent residents and a public hearing is held. That would be a conditional use scenario. It doesn't actually use the word conditional use within the code, but when you look at what they're requiring, it would be a conditional use for that particular parcel. After that, we have the two additional reasonable exceptions that are being proposed for you tonight. The first one is the commercial vehicle is a Class 3 pickup truck or cargo van parked on a lot within a residential zoning district and is not modified with equipment racks, service beds, or other surface equipment mounted to the exterior or open bed area of the vehicle, and only 2 such of these vehicles would be permitted at any given residential lot. And finally, the last one, some of you may recall that we did discuss this at the LDC. This one allows for exterior markings to be visible and doesn't disqualify a vehicle just because it has the name of a company or some type of an advertisement on the exterior of the vehicle. And now I'd like to share with you a couple of examples and kind of walk you through them a little bit. The top one here, you see a relatively small passenger vehicle with a GVWR of Class 1, meaning it's less than 6,000 pounds total gross vehicle weight rating. And you see business markings, but in this scenario, it would qualify as an approved vehicle to be parked in a resident's driveway. The next one down, you see a slightly larger vehicle. This is a full-size pickup truck. It falls into the Class 2 GVWR rating, and it also has business markings displayed. Also would be approved to be parked in your neighbor's driveway. This one, you're starting to see a little bit of scenario here where the vehicle weight rating is approved. However, the use type is not approved based on modification. The first one is a Class 2 full-size pickup truck, but it has equipment mounted and installed in the open bed area that would disqualify it due to the boom lift. And then the one below that, also a Class 2 pickup truck chassis that's been upfitted with a service bed and various equipment mounted in the rear of that vehicle. So again, the vehicle weight rating class would be okay if the vehicle had not been modified. In this scenario, because it is modified, it would not be allowed to occupy your neighbor's driveway. This one disqualifies, the first one here is disqualified based on class rating. That would be the equivalent of an F450 or a 4500 series or a larger flatbed work truck. It would not be allowed. It's simply too big of a vehicle. The one below that, had it not been fully modified, it may be eligible for an exception. However, the commercial modification here of the wraparound racks has disqualified it from that exception. The top truck here actually does qualify for that exception. It has not been upfitted with a service bed. It has not been upfitted with a boom, a crane, or anything of that nature. Therefore, when you look at it, you clearly see a large vehicle, but it's not completely converted into an obvious work truck. It's a vehicle that, you or I may drive, even though we have a liking for a large pickup truck. Because it's not upfitted with some of these other restrictions, it would be allowed to sit in your neighbor's driveway. The one below that is a very similar chassis body size. However, it has been upfitted. It does not qualify for the Class 3 exception, and for that reason, it would not be allowed to be parked in your neighbor's driveway. None of these would be allowed to be parked in your neighbor's driveway. Food truck, box truck, and again, keep in mind, box trucks come in all shapes and sizes, step vans, panel trucks, and things of that nature. So these would all be considered a violation under the amendment. And with that, I thank you for your time and consideration of this. I would like to ask that council consider approving this tonight on its first reading, and if approved, it will be brought back for a second reading on Monday, August 17th. And with that, I will be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Council member questions. We'll start at this end this time. Council member Schisler.
Thank you, Mr. Pauly. I know that this is, you had to digest and recalculate and recalibrate everything that we had in the regulations. Now this, you put in there that it's got to be motorized. So any trailers that are being hauled by any of these vehicles excluded, correct?
The exceptions
Yes.
are based on motorized vehicle. The trailers are disqualified based on the commercial use.
Okay, all right. So the next question to that is, what is going to be the enforcement policy or enforcement procedure?
As I said, we worked on this together, and I'd like to invite Mr. Shanks up to talk about enforcement.
Good evening. The enforcement procedure will be just like it is right now. Well, like it will be shortly, now that we've adopted citations. So it's going to be just like that. We would go with a courtesy notice. We would move forward with notice of violation and then escalate from there. Yeah, that's it.
So as is spelled out earlier tonight, it's going to be?
Correct.
Okay, all right. That's all I have.
Kravitz, any questions?
I do, yeah. So, from your understanding, what is the legislative intent behind this ordinance? Specifically, I'm trying to figure out, is the intent to allow more commercial activity, or is it to allow less? Because it seems to be moving in cross purposes, and I'll get to that.
It addresses three concerns. One is ambiguity within the existing code that in some cases is very difficult to enforce. And again, I'm not the enforcement guy, but I've worked with Mr. Shanks on this all the way through. As far as the actual allowances for vehicles, it actually lightens the reins a little bit, loosens the reins a little bit. But I think it does it in a way that best serves our community. In today's world, there are many people that drive a company car home, and that company car may say ABC Company clearly right on the side, and it may be registered to the company. Under a current existing language, that is a commercial vehicle. Under this provision, it loosens the reins and allows that vehicle, provided it meets these other standards, to exist in your neighbor's driveway. So it actually does both.
I mean, I completely agree about the existing statute being difficult. And this is a big step forward. It's a lot clearer. That being said, removing the issue with stickered vehicles, that seems completely fine. But on the other hand, what we have here in section D2 is that any modification of the vehicle will render it impermissible. But on the other hand, we're allowing much heavier vehicles from what my reading is. I mean, admittedly, the old statute at 1 ton is almost like prohibiting a Corolla, right? So I don't know if that is the benchmark, but then going all the way up to 14,000 pounds, that is a big leap. So we have a situation where we're going to have two commercial vehicles. I'll get to the question in a minute, I'm sorry. We have a situation where we're going to get to 2 commercial vehicles, but they cannot be modified, but they can be really heavy and they can have a company marking. So I'm envisioning a situation where we have a typical tradie who has like an F-150 and they've modified it in the back a little bit so that they can mount up some of their tools. And that is not allowed, but you can have a Ram 3500 twice in your driveway. And I'd like to know what you think about that.
The addition of a toolbox in the back of the truck would not disqualify it. We're talking about service beds and things of that nature. We're talking about significant modifications. At the end of the day, some of the basic logic that went into this was if you look at your neighbor's driveway and you see a big pickup truck and it looks like a big pickup truck that's a personally owned, maybe he's a small business owner, maybe he's got his handyman business on the side, but it's not obtrusive with this heavy equipment, these boom lifts, these bucket lifts, and these other devices, then just a toolbox mounted in the back, I think most people would absolutely have no issue with that whatsoever. But when you get into these much heavier commercial type upfits and upgrades is when that vision of my neighbor's big pickup truck versus, oh, now we've got a huge work truck next door. There's a transition that happens there. And the idea here is to allow people who drive a larger vehicle. Could I bring the slide back up, Brian, please? Someone who drives the bottom right vehicle, that is, just so everyone understands, that's not a margin vehicle. That is absolutely at the top end of the Class 3 scale. So you absolutely would not see something heavier or larger than something similar to what you have on screen now. And many people have those in their driveways already. They have them in their drive. People drive large trucks. But the idea is that we're not disqualifying it just at that class. Now, if you go above that class, we would disqualify it. But just at that class, we're not disqualifying it. But if you take that and upfit that to a commercial upfitting with a service bed or some other type of rig or boom or crane, then that would disqualify it.
I mean, I think I find your vision pretty coherent, but I'm just not seeing it in the statute, and that's my issue. Because if you look at D2, it says, or other service equipment mounted to the exterior or open bed of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that would include a toolbox if we're reading it as it's written. Wouldn't it?
Well, I think if you default back to the general prohibitions where it talks about the disqualifying items, I think you get a better feel for what we're talking about there. We're talking about the large commercial racks, the service beds, other service equipment that's mounted. This is not, either through my interpretation or Mr. Schenk's interpretation, is intended to disqualify a vehicle based on a toolbox.
Sure.
It's just simply not.
Right, but if you have like a typical modification to the back, to the truck bed, where you have like a mount for a couple of weed whackers or something like that, you're immediately in it, even if it's a smaller vehicle. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my other question is, why 2, why not 1?
I'll have to defer to Mr. Shanks again, because that actually was his input.
Okay.
It has to do with enforceability. He asked the question about why 2 and not 1.
So we have residents right now that have 2 large vehicles. They can maneuver them through their driveway. They can move them around. 1, I mean, I don't think it would be fair to tell somebody they can't have another vehicle. Like, I like Jeeps, I would love for my wife to have a Jeep. She doesn't want one. But if I drove an F-250 and she wanted a big truck too, she should be able to have one, right? Especially if it fits in my driveway. Now, if it doesn't fit in my driveway and I have to keep that somewhere else, like let's say I have a boat, I can't keep a boat in my driveway. I can't keep one in the road either. We have to draw the line somewhere. So 2 would fit a family pretty well within our area, given the neighborhoods that we have and the types of vehicles that we already have existing in Temple Terrace. I think one might just be a little overkill.
Okay, so I hear you. And I did look up whether there is actually a chassis size difference between like an F-250 and an F-350. And apparently, unless you have the F-350 with the 4 wheels in the back, the chassis are the same. But if you have the one with the 4 wheels in the back, that one is wider. And we all know that the roads in Temple Terrace are not the world's biggest, widest roads. So is there going to be a requirement that these very large vehicles are off-street parking?
As of right now, I don't believe that's going to be the case.
It's not in the code, but
No.
street parking would be permitted only where street parking is permitted.
Right, and that's as things are right now. To my point earlier, that we already have vehicles like that now. We have a few neighborhoods that are very, very small, parking's very, very tight, and these vehicles are conducive to that neighborhood, but it does take cooperation, obviously, from neighbors getting along. And we've had 1 or 2 incidences where we had to get involved and figure that out, and we've been able to. But people like big vehicles, and they should be able to have them. They just shouldn't have too many of them on site. Nobody's saying they can't have 4. But if you want to have 2 of them at home, great. The other 2 probably need to go to storage, just like a boat.
Okay, but hear me out.
Okay.
If they're parked on the street, they're not strictly on site, are they?
Well, they're still at the property. They're still at the residence.
Okay. Well, so when you and your wife have parked your extra wide F-350s in the road, I'll know who to complain to, right? Okay, I yield. Pardon the rhetoric.
I understand.
Yes. May I respond to that, please? The way the code is written specifically is per lot. So if it's street parking, then it's already causing an issue, because this requires that they be within the lot.
Where's that?
I'm looking at the section D2, talking about per lot.
Okay, but there's no, yeah, that just says that it's permissible if it's on the lot, but there's nothing prohibiting it from being on the street. You can park on the
Okay, I
street,
see your
right?
point.
Yeah, it's allowed. You can park your vehicle on the street, right? I mean,
Correct.
it's okay.
I think they still might get a visit.
We would pay a visit if there was an obstruction. Regular traffic laws, you have to park so far away from the side of within 12 inches of the curb, facing the right direction. And other vehicles, just like any other parking area, are going to have to position themselves so they're, safety vehicles can get through. We do address those situations now with large and small vehicles. Very, very seldom. But if they are parking in the street, they're going to have to position themselves where they're not going to interfere with other vehicles. And they typically don't, because those vehicles are very expensive and they don't want to get hit or scratched. Most of the time, we do see them in the driveways.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
City Manager.
Thank you. Just one thing, the city attorney and I we're just noticing here, there is a provision in the ordinance that's up for your review. 12-922 subsection C, where it does state general prohibition aside from approved exceptions included in this section, the following vehicles are prohibited from parking in any residential zoning district, and it says street or lot. So they would be, in fact, prohibited also on the street. I also checked with Chief Staley that if you had a vehicle, now you could have a large vehicle parked on the street, but if it impedes the circulation of traffic, the officer, not police officer driving by, could deem it to be in violation. not because of this, but just because of other traffic laws, and could ticket the vehicle or have the vehicle towed, for example, if you couldn't get an ambulance down the street because of this vehicle was so wide, or just parked in such a way that it was not allowing cars to travel freely. So there's some controls there as well.
Or, I mean, real briefly, just like if it's a street legal vehicle, it's probably hard to argue that it's blocking traffic in that way, because otherwise it would be street legal, I would imagine. And then the other thing is, the C section that you cited here, street or lot, agreed, but then the same exceptions in D apply. So it's still permissible to park it on the street as it is on the lot. So there's no stricter rule for the street, is all I'm saying, from what I can tell. So
You're correct.
yeah, okay, that's all. I yield.
Question. Thank you. And this isn't an I got you, but it's a question. So in your ordinance, you specify commercial trailers. So a open yard trailer with mowers and used for a business to mow yards, that's not allowed.
That is not allowed.
What if it's the same trailer with a man's son's go-kart used for a hobby?
I believe that would be allowed if it's not used for commercial purposes. Again,
What's that a difference in a boat, other than it's in the ordinance?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
A yard trailer with mowers is not allowed. What about a yard trailer with a go-kart used as a hobby?
Correct, a utility trailer is what we
Yes.
refer that to. Utility trailers are allowed, they just have to be stored on the side of the home, in the rear of the home, not closer than 5 feet from the edge.
So your commercial trailer with your mowers could not be in your side yard?
Correct.
Okay, that's the difference between commercial and
Yes.
hobby. Okay, thank you.
Member Fernandez?
I don't.
Don't really have any questions. I have comments, but no questions. Are we, any other questions, council members? Okay, if there are no further questions, I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending the Temple Terrace Land Development Code as amended by amending sections 12-40 definitions, 12-922 commercial vehicle restrictions in residential districts, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for correction of typographical errors, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion, council?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Move to approve on first reading of an ordinance amending Land Development Code Sections 12-40 definitions and 12-922 commercial vehicle restrictions in residential districts, and the second reading to be on August 17th meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Kravitz.
I'm very split on this because it does clean up the previous ordinance. I think that's a good step forward. I like the schedule where it shows all of the different weight classifications. Where I think it does go too far is allowing these vehicles, which can be enormous, to be parked on the street. So I think of all the things that I've heard today, that is the one that I think has the most potential for trouble, because also then you don't know who they belong to. So you might not know that someone has more than two. I hear the point raised by Director Shanks about how some families might need two extremely large trucks plus a third vehicle. It's, anything is possible. And I also think I was much less favorable toward extending this to Class 3 before I looked into Class 3 vehicles, and it does turn out that most of them are roughly the similar size, except, again, for the extra wide ones. So, personally, I would like to amend this. I'm not to adjust this statute so that it will require the people who have these commercial vehicles to park them on their own property, rather than using city-owned property to park the vehicles on. So that is something I think would be a really positive change here. Because otherwise, we're offering up our streets to these very heavy vehicles. They're going to be making traffic difficult to navigate. The roads are already tight. If people want to have vehicles like that, why not require them to put them on their property so that other people are not affected by it quite as much? That would be my ask. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I do, since you asked. F-350s, the dualies, or equivalent to F-350s, but the dualies are allowed now.
Yeah.
This isn't something that we're, like, after this passes, they're going to be allowed. They're allowed now.
Yep.
If this street parking was a significant problem that wasn't being addressed by state statute, which already regulates the blocking of traffic and obstructing, I think somebody should have told us that that's a problem. But I mean, this isn't, I'd probably be sympathetic to this if we were loosening up things to allow dualies that weren't currently allowed. Then I would say, yeah, that could be a problem. Maybe we should look at that. But this isn't loosening up any restrictions that don't already. This is the current status that's been this way forever. So I think could it become a problem? Yes. If it does, I think somebody should bring it to our attention that, hey, it would be the police, would be the ones enforcing that, and they would say, okay, we need to do something because we have these dualies parking on the street and they're blocking garbage trucks or fire trucks or whatever the case may be. I would be open to that if the problem manifests itself. But we're not loosening the restrictions on the dualies now. So that would be my 2 cents on that, but you still have to.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only part where I think we might be loosening it is previously if you had a commercial vehicle that had branding on it, for example, like if it's a fleet vehicle essentially, you could have a situation where you have multiple fleet vehicles now on the road. That is where it's being loosened from my perspective. I agree with everything else that you said.
Yeah, I don't want to take my turn, but
yeah, go ahead. I yield.
Yeah. I don't. Yes, what you're saying could potentially become a problem, and I think if it does, we need to look at some of that. If that comes out, and it could, then I think we need to go back and take a look. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to jump on my turn. City manager.
I apologize for interjecting here, but we're still trying to talk. I think there may be a clause in here that addresses your concern, Councilmember Kravitz, and you could read it, obviously, and if you think differently, let me know. So under section 12-922, again, going subsection D, and if you go to subsection D, basically, it says exceptions, parking a commercial vehicle in a residential zoning district through your lot is permitted pursuant to the following exceptions. And if you go to D2, it says that the exception would be commercial vehicle is a class 3 pickup truck or cargo van parked on a lot within a residential zoning district and is not modified with equipment racks, service beds, or other service equipment mounted to the exterior open bed area. Only 2 such class 3 vehicles per lot are permitted. So we're just reading that as, doesn't say street. So in this case, it would be, the requirement would be that they have to be on the lot. I'm not sure if that satisfies your concern, but that would seem to kind of point in that direction.
It's interesting because it's more specific than the D. The D says you have these exceptions that apply to the street or the lot. And then in subsection 2, it narrows it to on a lot. So then I guess you have a little bit of a contradiction there, but maybe it's just a more specific statute. So I wonder how that would be applied in this case. Yeah, I yield. Yeah.
Okay. Vice Mayor.
Comment. So I'm comfortable with the way it's written because right now, even if it's a Ford Escort or a big truck, if there's any reason to impede a garbage truck or fire truck or any of that, we have laws in that, so that can be addressed now. So that's just my opinion.
Comments? I do have one. I have something that although I share some of Councilmember Kravitz's concerns that may manifest, but I do have a concern. This is not enough of a concern for me to vote no on this. We've come so far on this, and this has been a sticky one. I mean, this has been a year and a half since we had our workshop, and I'm happy to get where we are. But I do want to keep an eye on this, and that is only 2 such Class 3 vehicles per lot are permitted. Now, if you got dualies, okay, but we have some lots in Temple Terrace, in the neighborhood I live in, we have big lots. I mean, we have, some people have driveways, you can fit 15 cars in their driveway. I mean, they're big. F-250s are Class 3 vehicles. F-250s are a common family car these days. There's people who have F-250s all over the place that don't use them for commercial purposes. They jack them up, they look cool, they drive around. I mean, F-250s are everywhere. I challenge you to go out to Publix and you count 3 of them in there at any given time. They're a very, here's my college word, a big ubiquitous, right, vehicle. And to say you can only have 2 of these seems a little arbitrary. Suppose that I drive a 3/4, what used to be a 3/4 ton truck, which I did. Suppose that my wife has one too, and then my son has one. If they fit in the driveway, what's the big difference? If somebody's got an F-150, they can have 4 of them. But if they have an F-250, they're only allowed 2. It seems like there would be a better way to get at what we're trying to get at. Okay, if you have X number of them where you don't have a place to park them, like, I think that's kind of where Councilmember Kravitz's logic is going, and I tend to agree with that track. It just seems a little arbitrary, and I'm not real comfortable with, I'm not, like I said, not enough to scrap the whole ordinance, but I'm gonna keep an eye on that one, because if we start, and I don't know, maybe there's nobody in the city who's got 3 F-250s, it could be, but if we start seeing this, I think we might need to tweak this in that area. Because, I mean, we start citing people because they've got 3 F-250s and they're all fitting in their driveway. I don't know what we're doing to the public. I mean, what are we gaining for the greater good here? That doesn't make any sense to me. So, anyway, I think you get the point. But okay. Other comments on the motion? Councilmember, did you have something?
I mean, I think it would not be unreasonable to say you have a higher limit if you park them on your lot, and then we remove the ability to park them on the road.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that because this thing's been through a year and a half through the planning commission to get, I don't want to have to start this all over again and go back to the planning commission. This is taken, I mean, if these problems manifest, then I'd say, yeah, we need to do something, but I don't want to, in my mind anyway, I don't know what your feelings are, but I don't want perfection to stand in the way of good. And is it perfect? No, there's probably another area too that I could talk about, but I think it's a good example of letting perfect stand in the way of good, in my mind. Okay, we ready to vote? Yep. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. The ordinance is approved on first reading, amending, I don't have to say all that, and will appear for second public hearing and second reading on Monday, August the 17th. Okay, very good. Next item, the public hearing and first reading of, we're ready to, you want to push through or do you guys want a 5-minute break? This seems a place to take a break unless you want to push through.
I'm good this time.
We're good? Okay, we'll keep going. They want a break, they're leaving us. Public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending code section 12-834 drainage systems. I'll open the public hearing. Public Works Director Jason Warren Felds has got his tie on. This is going to be expensive and he is here to present.
I'd ask you for a dime.
Tonight, throwing you off. No money. All right, Community Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is proposed amendments to Section 12834 of the Land Development Code regarding drainage systems. Over the years, staff have reviewed numerous development applications and drainage reports. During those reviews, we found that while the existing code provides general requirements, it lacks many of the engineering details that is now considered standard practice. These revisions do not fundamentally change our stormwater policy. Instead, they clarify expectations for design professionals and strengthen the technical requirements needed to demonstrate that proposed systems will perform as intended. And let's see here. So the key code revisions are requires basin maps, flow paths, dynamic modeling, and clarified rainfall data. Clarifies design storms, FDOT street capacity, plan details, and conflict manhole assurances. It establishes utility separation, pipe materials, and roadway separation, outfall, floodplain, pond recovery, and infiltration, and under drain requirements. In summary, revisions turn common engineering expectations into clear code requirements. The amendment improves consistency during design review and construction. These updates strengthen reasonable assurance for stormwater performance and protection from the public infrastructure, All right, these proposed amendments have been reviewed and approved by Hillsborough County Planning Commission. Ultimately, these revisions provide greater confidence that new development will properly manage stormwater, help keep water within the roadway drainage system, and better protect both public and private infrastructure and adjacent properties. Staff recommends approval of the ordinance on first reading and scheduling the second reading as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Warrenfeld. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Council members, questions? We'll start down at this side. Councilmember Fernandez.
So just for the information of the watching public, what we're doing with this amendment is clarifying what somebody who's going to propose a building or a development needs to present as part of their documents for permitting and review of their project.
Correct, yeah, it's to enhance our standards. This will enhance our code standards for engineering to review them to meet the current guidelines that we use. We just don't have it codified in the code.
Okay, so this is if somebody wants to build a project or develop an undeveloped property or even redevelop a property, they already are required to show how they're going to handle either retaining or the treatment, or just how they're going to handle all the stormwater that's going to hit that property. But because this is a lot more detailed about what they need to turn in than they've previously been doing.
Correct.
Is this consistent with what other jurisdictions are also requiring now?
So we currently use neighboring jurisdictions as a model, but we do not have it in our code as clear as it is presented.
Okay. And this doesn't necessarily change what a developer would need to do, or somebody who's building would need to do, because they're required to do the engineering to show how they would handle stormwater. Is that correct?
Correct. This gives us a greater leverage because it'll be codified in our code to apply them evenly as we do the reviews.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor? Okay. Councilmember Schuster.
So the thought process and the analysis that went into making these changes, this was based upon cannibalizing other jurisdictions, what they've done? Or did we set about and say, okay, engineering, what have you done? What needs to be done? What level of detail did we utilize in developing this going forward beyond the planning commission?
So it's the current common guidelines and practices is what was the main driver, plus our neighbors around us are utilizing the same standards. We just did not have it, again, codified in our ordinances to make it applicable as strong as we need it to be.
Councilmember Kravitz.
Hi, thanks. I've got just a couple questions. One of them is there's a Florida state statute now that states any work under $7,500 is permit-free. This is really broadly written, so I'm wondering if there is sort of like minor driveway work that's being done. Is this now we're going to require a permit from the homeowner?
Is that for the next one, or is that for the stormwater one?
Oh, that's the agenda item, sorry. That is for the next one. I do apologize. Yeah, sorry about that. I got a little bit ahead of myself.
That's
Thank you
okay.
very much. I withdraw the question. I have no further questions. Thank you.
No other questions?
Wrong item, pardon.
Real quick, so what was the genesis of this? Is this a proactive thing? Did something come our way to cause us to do this, or did this happen proactively in our staff?
Yes. So this is, and as it's, known, our engineering team has evolved, and this is, seeing what the challenges were getting up to where we're at, and then knowing that what's coming down the road. So it's a little bit of both. We've seen some challenges. We've had some, there's been meetings where staff or residents are concerned about stormwater runoff and how we apply the standards and what we're doing to prevent, issues. Well, this helps us when we go to those conversations, into those meetings, say, these are our codes now, this is the guidelines we're following, these are the expectations we want you to follow. So
Okay.
it's a little of both.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Section 12-834 of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for clarification of standards for drainage systems, revising the text to ensure adequate stormwater collection, conveyance, and long-term performance within the roadway system, strengthening technical submittal requirements, clarifying basin mapping and dynamic modeling standards, establishing storm sewer design criteria, requiring minimum roadway to water table separation, and specifying use of a FDOT Type 2 under drain where applicable, providing for severability, providing for conflict, providing for the correction of Scrivener's errors, providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, is there a motion?
Move to approve ordinance first reading, amending code section 12-834 drainage systems, and schedule second public hearing and second reading for August 17, 2026.
Second.
I heard Councilmember Fernandez, I think, beat you in there. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion of the motion? I just have one brief comment. Good work, and I see our city engineer is here. Good work. I say we constant improvement here, and this is a good example. Actually, these last two hearings have both involved cleaning up ordinances and better defining things, and so this is not exciting stuff. I read this and I actually understood a little bit of it, but none of this is exciting stuff, but this is really good government in action, so thank you very much. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Motion is approved on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on Monday, August 17th, 2026. Next item is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance amending code sections 12-921 driveway regulations. I'll open the public hearing, and our Public Works Director, Jason Warrenfeld, will also present this.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council. Before you are the proposed amendments to Section 12-921 regarding off-street parking and driveway regulations. Again, during the review of right-of-way permit applications and field inspections, staff identified several areas where the current code lacks sufficient detail. This has resulted in inconsistent driveway designs, inspection issues, and avoidable drainage concerns. The key code revisions for this, it sets driveway apron design standards, including slope and minimum elevation above pavement. It clarifies driveway width, cul-de-sac allowances, and how nonconformities are handled. It requires utility notifications, ADA compliance inspections, and the removal of tree roots before construction. It also adds standards for pavers, site distance, and adopts the Hillsborough County driveway detail. The ordinance also established, as mentioned there, the Hillsborough County driveway detail as a reference, providing contractors with proven familiar design standards. These revisions are intended to improve consistency, simplify the permitting process, produce safer driveways, and reduce future maintenance concerns while providing clear expectations to both homeowners and contractors. These proposed amendments have also been reviewed and approved by the Hillsborough County Planning Commission. Additionally, for the council, there was an error found on the financial impact statement for this agenda item prior to tonight's meeting. The ordinance listed on the financial impact statement is the amended revisions to the previous amendments for 12-834 and not 12-921. This error will be corrected for the second reading on the financial impact statement. Staff recommends approval on the first reading and the second reading as presented.
Thank you. We'll go to public comment. Mr. Mueller, is the impact statement correction and single reading at the second reading, is that legally adequate?
Never run into this.
Well, you'll tell us if it's not by second reading.
Yes, I certainly will. I think we can move forward with first reading and making sure it's corrected by second reading.
Okay. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Council member questions? Councilmember Kravitz, I know you have one at least.
I did. I have a couple. All right, I'll start with so this is going to capture all driveway work, no de minimis. Like I know that I mentioned the $7,500 exemption, state of Florida. I'm just imagining a situation where, you know, someone wants to just patch up their driveway or do a little extra work there and even it out or whatnot, and then they have to go and get a permit and all these other requirements. Is that the intention?
So this sets the standards for what they're going to do. The land use and the land use changes will still have to go through the permitting department and through community development. So this just allows for the development standards so that we can simplify the driveway areas where it's being applied.
Okay, so this is not this is going to govern construction standards for the work that's being done. This is not going to create a requirement to get a permit?
No, so the permits are still going to be required because the work still has to be, it still has to be inspected and all the land use still has to run through community development. So this is just standards for proposed and replacements. And it also adds for, you know, it includes our paver waivers, it includes line of sight issues. It just brings us up to the current guidelines that we should be following.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'm going a little too far in my own head. So if it's a new driveway or a replacement, that means you're taking the old driveway completely out and putting a new one in. It doesn't mean that you're fixing one that exists already?
So there would be, it would depend on what quantity of the work is going to be done. So if you're saying patch a crack, I mean, there's not going to be there's not a change in the area of coverage there. If you're replacing a concrete driveway with pavers, then yes, this will fall into that scenario.
Okay, but what if, I mean, classic situation, like let's say you've got a cracked slab, so you remove that slab and you pour it new right where it is. So, and it's not the whole driveway.
It would fall under this.
Okay, and so now they're like excavating their driveway and taking the tree roots out and all that? I mean,
Correct, yes. And we've had those recently where there's been a small inconsistency in the driveway elevation, creating a trip hazard on the public right-of-way side. So in that work, it required them to remove more of their driveway, remove the tree roots, and get things to be compliant.
kind of like shooting at mosquitoes with pistols here a little bit, but.
A little bit, but it's also, it's easy, not easier, it's better for us to enforce a common practice rather than be individualized for each property.
Sure, I get that. This like 6-inch depth below the substrate for the root removal, was that discussed at all with the arborist?
From my knowledge, I would have to confirm that, and I can do that for the second reading, just make sure that the arborist is aware of that. But I will tell you that engineering and the streets department, we often have conversations with the arborist on impacts to trees when we're doing driveways and sidewalks.
Okay.
So for this particular purpose, I can get you that, make sure that's clarified on the second reading.
I could see a scenario where you're basically killing a tree if it's near the driveway, let's say, and then you chop off half of its roots, and then it's not going to last. Also, last question, there's a exemption in our current code for driveway work under 100 square feet. Does this impact that exemption?
So that's where I was saying, if they're replacing a large portion of it, that's where, this is not a replacement for that. That exemption is still there. This is clarifying the standards for design and the significant rehab replacement work.
Okay, but coming back to the example that you were just discussing with me, where I said, let's say that there's a small cracked slab, they replace it. You said in that scenario where you were involved, they did have to do all these new rules, but was that more than 100 square feet then?
It was.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
Yep.
Okay, all right, as long as that exemption stays, and I'd like to see it move up a little bit, I'm fine with this. But I think otherwise this is way too much, because people have problems with their driveways all the time. Making it impossible to fix them is gonna be the opposite of what we want, you know?
For sure. And, yeah, I completely understand.
Yeah, all right, that's all my questions, thank you.
Mueller?
I just wanted to confirm the business impact estimate. We can move forward on first reading. It'll just need to be done before the public hearing and second reading. So we're good.
Thank you. Councilmember Sisters, Vice Mayor, questions? Councilmember Fernandez?
No.
Okay, if there are no further questions, I will close the hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Section 12-921 of the City Code of Ordinances, providing for clarification of standards for off-street parking and driveway requirements, revising the text regarding different elements of the installation of driveways, more specifically, providing clarification regarding securing block pavers, site distance, reducing impacts from tree roots, sidewalk slopes, and the protection of utilities, adopting the Hillsborough County typical detail drawing as a reference, providing for severability, providing for conflict, providing for the correction of Scribner's errors, providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, is there a motion?
Yes. Move to approve on first reading of an ordinance amending Code Section 12-921 driveways regulations, also modifying the business impact statement for the second reading on August 17th.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on Monday, August the 17th, 2026. Next, we have a resolution accepting modification number 1 to hazard mitigation grant agreements for fire stations 1 and 2, wind retrofit project. Our fire chief, Ian Kemp, who has been waiting patiently, is here to explain.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ian Kemp, your fire chief. Stand before you with a resolution accepting a modification to our current hazardous mitigation grant agreement for Fire Station 1 and Fire Station 2 wind retrofit projects. In May of 2023, the city entered into a hazardous mitigation grant program agreements with the Florida Division of Emergency Management for wind retrofit improvements at Fire Station 1 and Fire Station 2. The agreements were accepted by the City Council through resolutions number 84-23 and 85-23. Since the time, the city has completed significant wind mitigation improvements at both fire stations, including roof, door, and window hardening designed to strengthen the buildings against future hurricane events. During the implementation of the projects, it became evident that the replacing of the existing apparatus doors was necessary to fully harden each facility and bring the entire building envelope into the compliance with current mitigation standards. The city subsequently requested additional hazard mitigation grant program funding from the Florida Division of Emergency Management to expand this project scope to include installation of such hurricane-rated apparatus bay doors at both fire stations. The modification increases the federal funding for Fire Station 1 from $251,717.28 to $589,247.10, and for Fire Station number 2 from $224,335.84 to $515,637 for a combined increase of $628,830.98. This modification grant agreement also provides 100% federal funding subrecipient management costs of $32,735.95 for Fire Station Number 1 and $28,646.50 for Fire Station 2. The city's required non-federal match increases from $52,894.79 to $122,764.90, reflecting the expanded scope of the work to include replacement of the apparatus bay doors. The federal grant funding will be appropriated from the grants fund with the required local match funded through the budget adjustment from the Community Investment Tax Reserve account. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Councilmember questions. To start at this end, Councilmember Fernandez.
So originally, we had a grant award from the federal government and the required match. Has the cost of the work increased? Is that part of why we were able to secure a higher grant, like the cost of the materials and?
What happened was when I was looking at hardening facilities, we looked at the doors and the windows, and we needed to have some extra straps for the roof. So we had some contractors come in, went out to bid, and we received that. Once we had an architect come by, and it was actually he was looking at the EOC we're getting ready to build, and we're showed him the projects and everything. We were just about complete with Fire Station 1 and Fire Station 2. He looked at our bay doors and said, "Hey, these bay doors are not hurricane rated." Well, we thought they were because they were replaced when I first started working here. We replaced them about 20 years ago. So I had no idea, nor was it caught by anybody else. And he said, "No, these are not hurricane rated. This is your weakest point. You've done all this work, but now you have these bay doors that aren't going to accept the wind over probably about 120 mile an hour." So I talked to the person I was granted our grant mitigation person. I said, "Hey, this is what do you think we should do?" She said, "Well, a lot of times we'll just extend this, and we could probably give you more money because we really want to make sure that when we throw this money at you, that we secure the whole project and that your whole facility is strong." So we got estimates on about approximately what it would cost us, and then we asked for that amount, and they agreed, and they said, "Okay, we'll go ahead and give you this extra money," so that's where we are today.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Mayor?
Sure. So with these improvements to the bay doors, do you have any idea what category our buildings would be rated?
I think we're hoping it should be at about a 4.
Okay, is there some in engineering or something that we could have done so we know that?
I think there is. One of the problems is that they're older buildings, but we do believe that what the advantage of this is our firefighters should be able to, at most storms, unless it's kind of a Hurricane Andrew type storm, should be able to stay in the fire stations, at both fire stations, before, during, and after. Right now, on a big storm, they would have to run over to Temple Terrace Elementary in that hardened facility, because that's really the only hardened facility around. So really, after this is done, I think the city's just done, over the last 2 years, an unbelievable job with getting the facility on Whiteway a hardened facility. We're going to have a hardened facility for dispatch, police, and fire dispatch, as well as a brand-new EOC. And now both of the 2 fire stations should be hardened close to the same standard as those 2 buildings.
That's super. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I had a question, but it was answered. You answered the question with how come we had to do this. So that was.
Councilman Kravitz, any questions? No? Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, is there a motion?
Move to approve the resolution accepting modification number 1 to hazard mitigation grant agreements for Fire Station Number 1 and Number 2 wind retrofit projects.
Motion and a second. Discussion of the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. Thank you, Chief. Next, first council business item is the scheduling of 2 public hearings to adopt the millage and budget ordinances. I see our finance director is here for questions, but they've asked me to present this. So, due to the following hearing requirements, the City Council will need to schedule 2 special meetings to adopt the millage rate and budget ordinances. And this is some legal language that I have to read. To adopt the millage rate and budget, taxing authorities must hold 2 public hearings, the first or tentative hearing and a final hearing. Scheduling taxing authorities may hold trim hearings Monday through Friday after 5 p.m. and any time on Saturday, but never on Sunday. The BOCC cannot schedule its hearing on days scheduled for the school board. The school board has first priority of hearing dates. The BOCC has second choice. No other taxing authority in the county can use the BOCC's and the school board's scheduled hearing dates for its public hearings. The only exceptions are multi-county and water management districts, which we are neither. It is recommended that the City Council schedule the public hearings and ordinance readings for the millage rate and budget in the council chambers at 5:05 p.m. on the following dates. September 3rd, the public hearing and first reading. September 17th, the public hearing and second reading, and also on September 17th to consider resolutions addressing potential rate increases to utility funds. And so we need a motion and a vote to that effect. I don't think you have that language. You do have it? Okay, I have it here if somebody wants to make that motion.
I move to approve the schedule of public hearings and ordinance readings for the millage rate and the budget in council chambers at 5:05 p.m. on the following dates. September 3rd, public hearing and first reading / approval. On September 17th, public hearing and second reading / adoption. And also on September 17th, resolutions addressing potential rate increases for utility funds.
Second. It's almost as if you knew that was coming.
Oh,
Little motion and discussion. Is there discussion of the motion?
I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the start time for those 2 days is 5:05 p.m. for both days.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. We have some meetings scheduled. Thank you. Any other carryover council business?
I do.
Yes, Councilmember Fernandez.
I have 2 items. So I've had some questions in the public about the Planning Commission survey that was recently conducted, and then the meeting that we had that the Planning Commission hosted, and they put some information out. And there's just a little bit of confusion about where that information is coming from, the purpose of that plan, and it was not a city initiative. It was organized and implemented by the Planning Commission. But can you just, City Manager, describe a little bit about the purpose of that Planning Commission endeavor?
Actually, if you'd allow me to probably ask Mr. Pauly to come up because he's most familiar with that project.
Just so that people understand what the purpose was.
Well, hello again, Greg Pauly, Community Development. Very good question, and I understand how some people within the community have been confused about this. As you know, we are well along into a process of amending our comprehensive plan, and the first phase of that process is community outreach. The meeting that I believe you're referring to, plus the additional meetings that we had another meeting at the same location, and then we've had additional meetings at city events. These are all meetings that are driven by the consultant that was retained by the Planning Commission. to collect data to help develop the vision statement, for the overall update. So if you think about it, if you think about taking the big project and parsing it into smaller bites, what they've done is they've taken that first section, they've worked with the consultant to do numerous community engagements, online engagements, surveys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to gather as much information as they can to establish the vision statement. And then what you will see coming out of that is you will see the goals and objectives structured in a way, once they've crafted everything, and we haven't met, we usually meet every Friday. Last Friday we did not meet, so I don't have an update on that, but the Planning Commission representative will be in the office with me tomorrow, so I'll be able to maybe get an update at that time. But what you're going to see is you're going to see them take that information and use that to formulate the building steps moving forward.
Okay, and then there's a question in the public about how the city uses this comprehensive plan in our normal operations.
Absolutely. That is an excellent question. I wish more people understood that. In the simplest terms, in community development, and the comprehensive plan touches just about every department in the city, but it especially touches community development, public safety, public works, some of your more forward-facing public departments. It's kind of like the overriding umbrella of guidelines moving forward. Everything that we do, that's why everything you see us bring before you at this podium that touches land development goes to the Planning Commission. Because when you hear us come here and say it's been approved by the Planning Commission, what that truly means is that the Planning Commission has gotten with their own staff, reviewed whatever the item is that we're bringing before them to see if it supports and is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. So from a holistic picture, that comprehensive plan is our Bible. We go by that. We literally have to speak on it and go by it every single day, because everything we do under land development, everything we do that we touch to help promote community development, land development, anything that touches any of that has to comply and has to support that comprehensive plan.
Okay. Hopefully that will answer some of their questions that they've asked. And I just have one other item.
Thank you.
So this has to do with the proposed bond referendum. And the question is, that's come up that I want to make sure that we get the information out, is that if that referendum were to pass and we issued a bond to build the public safety complex, that project would follow our normal project operation, as in we would put that out for a bid, we would engage somebody, we would put a bid out to engage somebody's design and maybe design and build or whatever, but it wouldn't be, we don't have a contractor or a developer that we've awarded anything to.
That's correct. So we have a contract for design purposes, conceptual design, that was done by, used to be, is it PBK? Thank you. But we go for this next phase. We haven't decided at this point. Obviously, we want to see the results of August 18th, but I believe we've made a decision whether it's going to be a design build or a design. I can't think of the terminology right now, but a traditional design process where you'd have a separate architectural firm design and then you'd have a contractor bid on it, design bid build, excuse me. We haven't made that determination, but yes, we're going to follow all the appropriate processes. This is a pretty large project, so we wanted to make sure that everything would be done in accordance with our purchasing manual and all the applicable rules.
Okay, because there was just some, the concerns that were expressed were that, how do we know the construction cost? Have we done the bid process? And I just wanted people to understand that the project is not at that point.
So for the construction costs, what as part of PBK's scope, they went out to 4 different estimators in the construction industry and asked them, basically provided them with the specifications, generally speaking, that they had at that conceptual point, and asked them for what they would cost this project out. So that's where we got that. And then they took basically a cross-section of those costs and came up with the number that we've been using in terms of what's on the bond. Obviously, as we've told the community, the number was about 43 to 44 million, and we're saying not to exceed 50 because of potential inflation that could happen before we get to construction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other council business, carryover council business? Councilmember Kravitz.
Old business, yeah. Question for the city manager. Where are we at on the interim PFAS filtering solution? We were soliciting bids, I think.
Not necessarily soliciting bids, as I mentioned before at the workshop, the last budget workshop. So what staff is doing, Public Works staff, is they're finalizing everything for the August 11th budget workshop for the Water and Wastewater Fund. We plan to bring you a comprehensive analysis that includes basically a spreadsheet to compare the different alternatives for you to consider that include interim solutions as well. So that's where they're working. So that'll be part of that August 11th budget workshop.
Thank you.
Other council business? New business, board reports, any new business? I have one quick thing. I'd like to remind the public that the ballot that we've just been talking about for the public safety, the general obligation bond is on the ballot for August 18th. Obviously, there's a lot of other important things on that ballot as well, but here in Temple Terrace, that one's exceedingly important to us. And I would encourage everybody who is eligible to vote to please vote. Early voting has started. I also want to read the ballot language to you, and there's a reason why I'm doing this, so bear with me. This is from the official ballot from Supervisor of Elections. It says General Obligation Bond Referendum for Temple Terrace, Public Safety Complex with police and fire stations. Shall the City of Temple Terrace issue general obligation bonds in one or more series not exceeding $50 million, bearing interest not exceeding the maximum legal rate, maturing not more than 30 years from the issuance date of each series, pledging the city's full faith, credit, and unlimited ad valorem taxing power to finance the construction and equipping of a public safety complex, including a new police station, a new fire station, and related facilities. And there are 2 options, yes or no. The reason I'm reading that is because there are numerous disinformation campaigns out there. I was at the fitness center today. I know I don't look like that, but I was. And there was a person in the fitness center, and in the hour that that person was there, they told no less than 4 people that this ballot initiative had on there that the city wanted to make the city all Section 8 housing, and that all of your housing values are going to go down because this is what the ballot is to make Section 8 housing in the city. Now, I know they told at least 4 people that because 4 of those people knew who I was and told me. So I didn't get a whole lot of working out done today because I was setting the record straight on this. And so, make no mistake, I am not trying to sway you or encourage you to vote one way or the other. You vote your conscience as residents of the city. That's why it's on the ballot. And I won't hold it against anybody, however they vote. But please vote. And equally as important is please don't spread disinformation about stuff. If you don't like it, go tell your neighbors don't vote for it. That's fair. That's the form of government we have. But don't go make stuff up and lie to them about what's in there to try to get people not to vote for stuff. That's not democracy. That's, I don't know what it is. I got words for it that I can't say up here. But anyway, that's the ballot language. Please vote. However you vote is how you vote. But I don't listen to anybody wants this, I'll get it to you. You call anybody in this room and we'll get you the ballot language if you don't already have it. Okay? Thank you. Any other new business? I'm off the rant now, by the way. Any other new business or board reports? Okay, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In your backup this evening, you have 3 sets of reports for the fiscal year 26 third quarter. You have the council's fiscal year priorities, city's departmental budget goals, and then the ARPA project updates. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about those documents.
Any questions for Mr. Bia?
I just have one comment.
Yes.
This is just for the viewing public, is that anything that is in our agenda packet is part of what you are able to see if you go on to the City of Temple Terrace website. The agenda packet that we get, that we see, is accessible by everybody. So any of the reports that are mentioned here, if you want to look at them, they're in that agenda packet. That's it.
Anything else? And Mr. B, anything else? Oh, did I miss? Okay. City Attorney?
Nothing.
Council, anything else? Councilmember Kravitz.
Just asked the city attorney a brief question. I think it was May and then later again in June, I asked for any information about all of the outstanding litigation that the city has. What I received, as far as I can remember, was a list of cases with no further details. I was wondering if any progress has been made in providing actual information about the cases that were on that list.
I am available if you want to come talk to me about those cases.
I would like the information in writing.
Let me check and make sure that doing so is not adverse to any of the city's interests, and if so, I will go ahead and provide more detail.
All I'm asking for is maybe 1 or 2 sentences describing the general contents of these individual cases, of which there were many, and what their current status is. You don't have to go into anything privileged. 2-sentence summaries is fully sufficient. This is a civil case between A and B. The amount in dispute is blah, blah, blah. This is where it is in the litigation. This is the anticipated outcome.
I will take a look and try and provide that information if I feel it isn't adverse to the city.
Thank you. And for the record, I do think it's completely reasonable for me to ask for those things in writing. So I appreciate the invitation to come have a chat, but I'd rather have a document that I can refer to at my leisure because it's complicated and there were a lot of cases. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. That's all. I yield.
Anything else to come before the council? Then we will stand adjourned.